as on date, the air supremacy exists for Israel and United States. So that advantage is there. Now, the war, I think the way it is going to unfold, Gaurav, I think the next 72 hours are going to be very intense.
Yes.
There is going to be death and destruction. And both sides are going to go free for all, including now I foresee that within the next maybe 2 to 3 hours, there could be even naval warfare because ships of the United States and Iran both are deployed in the Persian Gulf area. And I think President Trump's statement, some of the key words were, that every area of,
Iran's navy will be obliterated.
Yes.
Those exact words. And there is a report that seems to indicate that Bandar Abbas has been targeted. Ambassador Dogra, this on day one suddenly is a very intense conflict. It's really intense on day one. 70 to 80 missiles and rockets fired in the direction of Israel and over 100 in the direction of Iran.
Sorry, Ambassador, can I just...
Gaurav, as you know very well, wars start with bombs and missiles and whatnot. So the idea is that the first strike should be so intense that it should unnerve the other side. This was also the intention of Russia when it started the war in Ukraine. There was a 60-kilometer long convoy which was then stopped and halted because of punctures in some of the tires that Ukrainians did. And at that time, I remember very well, I was in your studios and Ashtak studios, some of the experts were saying this war will be over in 3 days. Russia will overtake Kiev, and that's the end of it.
I was on ground when that offensive started in Kiev. We saw some of the Russian tanks come into the city and suddenly retreat because the teeth came in, the tail could not fetch up. Abhijit, you wanted to quickly come in. I'm getting a report from Tel Aviv, but Abhijit, quickly, before I bring in that report, before I bring in Gilad from Tel Aviv.
There have been explosions in Bahrain. Looks like Iran has attacked Manama. And so ballistic missile strikes on Manama, and apparently the Iranian parliament has been bombed.
The Iranian parliament has been bombed, reports Abhijit. Bahrain has been targeted because just a moment ago, inputs that were coming in, air raid sirens had gone up all across Bahrain. It's a very crucial American base in Bahrain. Now, India Today's Gilad Kumar is constantly reporting from ground zero in Tel Aviv. There are reports of some blasts, whether they're in the sky or on ground. Gilad, where you're reporting from, you're currently, I'm told, back in an underground bunker in a safe place. But what's happening? Gilad, get us your report.
Hi, this is Gilad. As you can see, there's another rocket. You see the cars on the side? So cars are stopping here because of the alarm. You can see if we go up the tunnel more. So some cars are driving, as you can see, and some are stopping. Yeah, a few sirens also in the north, now also in Jerusalem, and all over the country we got alerts. So we're not sure where the rockets are going to, but we got also an alert for Jerusalem, so we're stopping in the tunnel.
Extremely intense phase of operation even as we speak. Right now, there's a red alert that's been sounded across Bahrain. There are multiple American bases in the region from Qatar to Jordan, to Saudi Arabia, to the United Arab Emirates. And Ambassador Dogra, Iran had clearly warned, whether those are bases in Egypt or in Jordan, all American bases are vulnerable should there be a strike on Iran. And this is quite a massive strike on Iran.
Yes, you're right. And as I was saying, the first strikes always seem to be massive. But in war, days are long and nights are longer still. So let's keep our conclusions for the next month or the next year, because wars have a habit of lasting a long time.
Yes.
Secondly, this was not a war which American people wanted. This was not a war which probably even Israelis wanted. This was a war which Trump and Netanyahu wanted for their own personal reasons. Epstein for Trump and criminal cases for Netanyahu. So this is, if anything, it is the Iranian people, despite American propaganda, who will stand solidly behind the Iranian regime because they feel they have been wronged. It was an unnecessary war, and they must back.
So let me bring in
Khamenei.
Avner Vilan, a former Israeli security official and an expert on Iran who joins us on this broadcast. Avner, your view on the current scenario. We are told very sensitive locations, even in Israel right now, are vulnerable by the barrage that's been fired by Hezbollah and Houthi and the Iranian regime.
So Israel has been preparing for this for quite a time. We've been at war for the last two and a half years. So Israeli population and Israeli air defense is prepared. The Iranian regime has been openly stating that they want to annihilate Israel. They are trying to acquire nuclear weapons. They have been doing so for the last 30 years or so. So this is another, hopefully, the final step of a long-lasting battle between Iran, and it's not just Israel; it's the entire Western world. I heard by the former person who spoke.
Yes,
the Iranian people went out to the street in the beginning of January and demanded a regime change. They understand that the regime is not taking them to a prosperous life. And today, the Iranian people is on the side of the U.S. and on the side of Israel.
If I may, Avner, an equally large number of people who came out on the streets of Tehran were in favor of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei also. Does that indicate that, and India Today was reporting from Ground Zero in Tehran at that point of time, and those people said they swear by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who's standing up to the Americans and in their view the Zionists. So how difficult will it be for Israel and America to ensure what the aim of regime change?
So I listened carefully to President Trump's speech today. He said a few things. First and foremost, they want to eliminate the threat coming from Iran, from their nuclear capabilities, from their missile capabilities, from their terror proxies in the region. So they're targeting their military capabilities. And he said, once we're done with that, it's up for the people of Iran to decide, do they want to change the regime or not? So first and foremost, the goal is to obliterate Iran's military capabilities, including the nuclear capabilities, as well as to enable the option for a regime change. In January, President Trump said to the Iranian people, help is on the way, and now we see that the help has come.
Okay, Ambassador Dogra also wants to come in, but I have another question for you. Iran assured in this dialogue, and the dialogue that just happened yesterday in Geneva, that they would never pursue a nuclear weapon. They assured people that they're capping their ballistic missiles at 2,000 kilometers. It would never be a threat to the United States, and yet they were bombed. What is it that neither America nor Israel trust in what Iran said, despite countries in the region, including Oman, saying they will stand guarantee? Or words to that effect?
So Iran has a long history of lies. We've seen it even in going into the JCPOA. The first sentence is Iran never tried to acquire a nuclear weapon, which is, we know that is complete nonsense. We've seen the nuclear archives. We've seen hundreds of intelligence reports saying that Iran actively tried to pursue nuclear weapons. So this regime is based on lies. And you can't take what it says in international diplomacy at face value. We've seen them advancing their nuclear capabilities even before last June and after last June. So the fact that the regime now says that they don't want to acquire nuclear weapons, by the way, which they weren't really openly saying, like President Trump said. So they could have made it a lot more clearer that, this is not something that they want to pursue. Instead, they played games. They try to stall the negotiations. And I believe that President Trump really gave them, some chance to reach a quick agreement, which they didn't. And now we see the
between you and I, if you hear Abbas Araghchi, their foreign minister's interview to India Today just 72 hours earlier, he said this in black and white, Ambassador Dogra, that one, they had no plans of making nuclear weapons. They did not intend taking it forward. They were capping the ballistic missiles at 2,000 kilometers, and that they were willing to give more commitments to the international community as required. But was this operation and the timing of this operation? Because Russia has just come out and hit out very hard at American President Donald Trump, saying the real face of peacemaker Donald Trump stands exposed today. Ambassador Dogra, before I bring in Abhijit.
Absolutely, because yesterday, Omani foreign minister to a US channel in USA said very clearly that Iran is willing, under IAEA supervision, to reduce even that 60% enrichment that they have done. And every condition that America had laid down in Geneva, Iran had accepted. But America had other ideas. It wanted to bomb Iran, not because Iran would enrich in future, which it cannot if it comes under IAEA inspection.
Yes.
Because Trump was fearing for his own presidency that Epstein files have become larger than life and they're becoming threatening. So just like Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction, Iran does not have the bomb. It is Saudi Arabia which has the bomb. But USA will not bomb Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is its ally. So USA picks and chooses its victims.
Okay, give me a moment, Abhijit. Abhijit, if you can come in, we're told there's been a massive blast that's been heard in Bahrain. Air raid sirens had gone up just a short while back, which means despite air defense systems in place, there's been a blast. What more can you tell us? What are you picking up?
We have visual confirmations of a massive blast hitting the center of both Jufair Air Base and Al Udeid Air Base. So both the American air bases there have been hit. Qatar is reporting they have just intercepted a barrage of missiles. There is no visual confirmation of any hits in Qatar, but they have announced that they are intercepting it, that they have successfully intercepted it. That's all we have for now. So it looks like Iran is, expanding its scope of operations. It's not keeping it limited to just Israel and attacking the American fleet. It's attacking all the American bases in the region.
General Meston, this would indicate that either Iran's capabilities were underplayed or the fact that they're able to hit two very crucial US air bases and in the middle of a runway, if they can strike. What does this indicate about one, Iran's capabilities, two, the air defense system that the Americans had put in place?
Yeah, 2 points very clear, Gaurav. Firstly, regarding the air defense capabilities, yes, America has got advantage of air defense capabilities, but certainly no air defense system in the world, can take on all the missiles. There is no denying to that fact, and therefore we are seeing what is happening now in Bahrain. Number two, whether the Americans have underestimated, I think they have not underestimated. They knew the strength of Iran. And Iranian strength is basically the missiles, short range and medium range and long range missiles. This is what their strength is. And they also have the hypersonic missiles and, of course, drones.
Okay.
So their strength is realized, but perhaps Americans and the Israelis have estimated or taken a pragmatic assessment that they will be able to tackle. But now what matters is finally on ground. On ground, most of the missiles are getting through.
Multiple blasts are now being heard. Multiple blasts. US naval base in Bahrain has been hit after sirens. Multiple explosions heard at the US naval base in Bahrain, hit by Iranian missiles. Avna Wilan, as a former Israeli security official and an expert on the kind of capabilities that Iran has, your reading of the current situation, if some of their rockets are hitting Haifa or are being neutralized over Haifa, a US naval base being hit in Bahrain, what would you make of Iran's capabilities right now?
So I think the script was laid before us for the last few weeks. The Iranians are doing exactly what they said they would. They said that any attack would remove any restrictions that they may have. So they're shooting at Israel. They're shooting at US bases in the region, may shoot at other allies. This is a scenario that Israel and the U.S. has been preparing for. We are talking to at least a few days of massive attacks on all of Tehran's capabilities. They will fire, whatever they can. There will be some casualties, some damage to Israel, to the U.S. forces in the region. This was a calculus that was thought before going into this strike. This is the new chapter in this
What is your appreciation? How long will Iran be able to survive? How long can Iran continue to fight given the might that the Americans and the Israelis have put together right now in the region?
So I think we'll know better, in a couple of days after we'll see the aftermath of the first wave or the first and second wave. We'll see what capabilities. I don't think the Iranians will be holding back anything or very little. So we'll be smarter in a few days.
Okay.
War is like a kingdom of uncertainty, and we've just started one.
So, Ambassador Dogra, that window for dialogue is now over. All indications, you heard the Israeli Prime Minister, you've heard the American President. Now their aim is to weaken Iran so much, the regime in Iran so much, that people come out on the streets and enforce a regime change. Is that how you see it, given all that we've been hearing about Mossad being very strong on ground, even in Tehran?
Well, Mossad was very strong on the ground in the first round. I doubt whether their assets are still there, because there have been a lot of roundups by Iranian forces
in the
of
past
Mossad assets. So it may not be the same intensity that Iranian regime has to face from within. But what is very clear to me is that America and Israel have miscalculated massively, because they are not fighting just Iran. They're fighting also China and perhaps to some extent Russia. So it's payback time for West for what they did in Ukraine against Russia. The second thing is that Iran has prepared much better and for a longer war after the first round. And Iran has many surprises up its sleeve for America in particular, especially its naval assets.
Sir, that's a very major statement, and let me get our guest to respond to all of what you've said, Jill Meston. Okay, these are the first images that we are getting from Bahrain, and I want to play these images out full frame for a moment. That's in the middle of Bahrain, and Bahrain has very crucial air bases and naval bases as far as the United States is concerned. Jufair Air Base has been targeted. That's the information. The US naval base, the 5th Fleet, we're told that's the base that's been targeted. US naval base in Bahrain. This is the first image that you get of that explosion. Not a very massive plume of smoke, Abhijit, but this is more than just a symbolic strike. Capable of striking once, capable of striking again.
I think from the other visuals that I'm getting, Gaurav, it seems to be a fairly significant strike. It's clearly hit something big. Also, we now have reports of intercepts over Kuwait. We have confirmed intercepts over Abu Dhabi. I've just tweeted out the videos of the intercepts in Abu Dhabi as well. So Iran is clearly going all out. They have attacked the UAE, they've attacked Bahrain, they've attacked Qatar, they've attacked Kuwait.
Wow, that's huge, Jill Meston. This is Iran opening multiple flanks, and a fire in multiple flanks would also indicate that the counter-attack could also come from multiple flanks, and the way US forces are deployed in the region, the way Israel's deployed in the region, this would indicate that Israel, America and Iran are going in for an all-out offensive.
Gaurav, there is no doubt it's an all-out offensive, and now it is multi-dimensional and multi-front. And I think the best advantage to the Iranian side is that they have got their missile systems are very, very effective, and some of them perhaps can't be even intercepted, like the hypersonic missiles. And of course, their drones have proved their efficacy in Russia-Ukraine war. So what
a big statement coming out of Iran. Iran says all American bases are in our grasp. US base in Bahrain has been hit by Iranian missiles. Kuwait has been targeted. United Arab Emirates, apparently there's been an interception. Iran says all US bases are within our reach and they are striking. Kuwait's Ali Al Salem base has been targeted by Iran. Huge escalation that is taking place. And Avner Vilan, would you want to respond to the point that is being made that this time Iran is better prepared? It's been armed by Russia and by China, according to inputs that are coming in, and this could well be a long drawn-out affair.
Shelter immediately. Shelter in place.
Avner Villan, can you hear me? Okay, give me a moment. Give me a moment. Avner, can you hear me?
Shelter in place.
Okay, we'll just reestablish that link with Avner Villan. Abhijit, you want to take that question? The manner in which multiple US air bases in the region have been targeted almost simultaneously, near simultaneous multi-pronged offensive by Iran.
Shelter immediately.
They're not going to restrict their strikes. And that's exactly what they're doing. I'm getting confirmation by my friends in at least the UAE and Kuwait that the air raid sirens are continuing to ring out there. They've not stopped. So right now we have reports. I can confirm personally in the UAE and Kuwait, the air raid sirens are still ringing, but apparently they're still going on in Bahrain and Qatar as well.
Okay.
So literally every single American base, they're staying true to what they said. My only thing is they might expend their stock of missiles much quicker than expected.
Okay, give me a moment as I bring in Rachel Lester, former IDF spokesperson, joining me on this broadcast. Rachel, welcome. What's the latest that you can tell us? What's happening over Israel? We've been told of multiple blasts and explosions being heard in Haifa and in Tel Aviv.
I just want to clarify that I'm a former IDF spokesperson's unit soldier, not a former IDF spokesperson. The latest in Israel is that there have been sirens and explosions around Israel. Israelis are sheltering in place, and we are just waiting to hear when it is safe to leave the shelters.
So you're still waiting to hear when is it safe to leave shelters. Are you also picking up inputs that seem to indicate that Iran this time is much better prepared compared to 2025 June offensive, the 12-day war? They've been better armed by China and Russia, as some reports seem to indicate?
I'm not sure the validity of those reports. I think that the US and Israel did significant damage to their capabilities in 2025. And I think that we saw them lose a lot of their rocket launchers and their missile launchers. And I would say that if they are better prepared for the war now, Israel is also better prepared because we learned a lot from the 2025 war. And we have been, stepping up our defense operations. We've been preparing the home front.
And yet the US Navy's 5th Fleet at Bahrain has been targeted by Iran, which wasn't the case during the 12-day war. At that time, only Al Udeid base was targeted. That was more symbolic. American forces were permitted to leave. This time, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, multiple places are being targeted simultaneously by Iran.
Yes, that is definitely a new development that we did not see last time. We are seeing, Khomeini said minutes ago or hours ago that there are no red lines, which means that he is willing to target anything and anyone, civilian, military, doesn't matter to him, as long as it does damage to America or Israel.
Massive escalation. Give me a moment. News just coming in. Explosions are now being heard in the United Arab Emirates. So this is now a massive expansion that we noticed. So first it was Kuwait's Ali Al Salem Air Base that was targeted by Iran. So Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and now the United Arab Emirates, US naval base in Bahrain. This is the headquarters of the 5th Fleet. It's a very, very crucial naval base for fleet operations, for the aircraft carrier battle group operations, strike group operations in the Strait of Hormuz or all along in the Persian Gulf region, or the Arabian Gulf as some prefer to call it. In those waters, the main US base that operates out of Bahrain, the 5th Fleet headquarters, we are told 5th Fleet base has been targeted in Bahrain. We are also now being told explosions are being heard in the United Arab Emirates. Iran has fired multiple missiles in the direction of US bases in these regions. UAE's Al Dhafra base has been targeted by Iran. Bahrain, Iranian missiles have targeted the 5th Fleet. Bahrain, US Navy's 5th Fleet has been targeted by Iran. General Meston, this would indicate massive planned systematic strikes, simultaneous strikes by Iran.
Iran has retaliated, and which they had spoken that they will open up all the fronts, and which they have done. And I think what I was saying earlier also, the next 72 hours, I think the things are going to be out of proportion. Both sides, there's going to be total death and destruction. And now we will also see in the naval warfare, especially in the Persian Gulf, there will be high intense naval activity. And for all you know, it may have been commenced, which was may come after some short time. So everywhere all domains are open, except one domain will never open up, and that is the ground front, implying there will be no troops on ground. So they will remain uncommitted. And this is now coming on to the advantage of Iran. Iran has the basic advantage of having huge number of stockpile of missiles. Now I agree with Abhijit. What is the staying power of Iran? How long will these missiles remain? Because right now the American strategic bombers have not been used. So how effectively they can target these?
But Iran is also a huge country. Do keep in mind, as you know better, Iran is a massive country, and they've got their missiles so spread out in different parts of the country over decades. Gilad Kumar joins us from Tel Aviv. Gilad, hope you're safe. Are you out of the underground bunker or still there right now? What's the latest?
Hi, do you hear me, guys?
Yep, loud and clear. Strength 5 go on.
I can't see you, but maybe because of the internet, if I can hear you. We're in a bunker in my home, my family's home. You can see here, it's a bunker inside the home. We just hear the sirens right now. It's pretty scary, pretty terrifying. I was just on the way from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. We heard multiple sirens there. Yeah, we're here. I'm here with my whole family. Here.
So
Here's my whole
unsafe.
family.
You're in underground bunkers right now.
It's not underground. It's not underground, but very thick walls, cement walls.
Rachel Lester, the manner in which bases are being targeted across the region and systematically, and in some instances, we are told successfully. Had this been war gamed, or has Iran succeeded in surprising US and Israel? Rachel Lester.
No success. Just a bunch of sirens. We have the best air defense and in the world. We have one of the best armies in the world. No, just a little bit of frightening. Just running to the shelters.
I have more breaking news coming in. Explosions are now being heard in Abu Dhabi. Loud explosions have been heard in Abu Dhabi. So very, very clearly, this is a massive escalation that is taking place at multiple levels. I want to bring in Rachel Lester into this conversation, and I want to show our viewers. So US bases in Riyadh, US bases in Kuwait, US bases in the United Arab Emirates, US bases in Bahrain, US bases in Qatar. It's virtually, US has about a dozen bases in the region, and it seems almost all are in Iran's direct line of fire. Rachel Lester, if you can hear me, is this a surprise for Israel, the speed with which Iran has been able to strike?
Military echelons of the country, but I can say that for myself, it is a huge surprise, because I was under the impression that after the 2025 war with Iran, that we had degraded their capabilities to a very significant degree. And I think that the manner in which they've been able to recover, or maybe we didn't eliminate their capabilities as well as we thought we did, I think that we're seeing a very surprising amount of firepower that I don't think we were particularly expecting.
Oh, absolutely. Though this was on the cards, Ambassador Dogra, the manner in which Iran is able to strike, and even after that 12-day war in June 2025, a large part of Iran's capabilities were intact. And when India today spoke to Iran's foreign minister, he also indicated that they have the capabilities, they want peace, but they're prepared for war. And all indications are they are well prepared, at least in the first couple of hours of the conflict.
Well, Trump should also have been prepared for this, because every major strategic expert in America advised him against war. He refused to accept it for personal reasons, as I've repeated. As far as Iran is concerned, I want to
Okay,
first...
sir, give me a moment. This is that exact moment. This is that exact moment when the US Navy 5th Fleet in Bahrain was targeted. This is a big, big hit as far as Iran is concerned. To be able to strike in the heart of the US Navy's 5th Fleet base at Bahrain, it just goes on to indicate the capabilities that Iran has to be able to dodge the intercept, to be able to dodge the interception by the United States. The United States has its Patriot system. The United States, very strategically located, also has its terminal high altitude area defense system, the THAAD system. The United States has a lot of ships out at sea. They have aircraft out at sea. All those aircraft, all those ships are keeping an eye on every missile that's being launched by Iran, and yet Iran has been able to successfully strike, and that's the exact moment that you see of the Iranian missile strike at Bahrain, at the US Navy 5th Fleet. That's a huge step, General Meston. That's a huge explosion that we are watching on a television screen by the Iranian missile hitting Bahrain.
US THAAD system, the Patriot missile system, basically the air defense has not been able to intercept, and they were well aware. United States was well aware that if the war starts, Iran is going to hit all their military and naval bases. They had no doubts about that. But despite that, I think Iranian missiles have been very successful, and now it remains to be seen in the next few hours how many missiles by Iran will be launched at which all places, and what will be the impact on ground. See, all impact on ground, the number of casualties. Please remember, Gaurav, that United States is averse to having casualties.
Yes.
You know, the problem would be that if they have large number of casualties, though President Trump acknowledged we are ready to have casualties, but the American civilians will not pardon President Trump if they start having body bags coming to United States of America. So this is going to have a major impact. So Iran's intent would be to have create large number of casualties.
No, but this is huge. This is huge. And for the benefit of our viewers, I must at the same time say America had taken preemptive measures. A large number of troops located at a lot of these bases were relocated. Some of them were repatriated, sent back to the United States of America. Some others were shifted to other bases. Others were taken to Europe, to Germany and other bases in Europe. So America has taken some preventive measures. Only the very essential staff was at some of these bases. But imagine if Iran has been able to strike the 5th Fleet at Bahrain. What a huge signal that is. And I want to bring into this conversation India Today's Akshita Nandgopal as she takes our coverage forward. Akshita, this is perhaps one of the biggest countermeasures, counter strikes by Iran, targeting multiple American bases in the region, from Kuwait to Riyadh, from Bahrain to the United Arab Emirates. This is huge right now in the first couple of hours of war.
Absolutely, Gaurav. Unprecedented in a matter of hours. And you've been reporting through the last many hours, almost 6 hours, on what's been happening right now. We're seeing it spread. This is the Middle East now on fire. Every single country on high alert. You're seeing attacks, counterattacks playing out on your screens. Are the images from Bahrain. This is of the naval base of the United States 5th Fleet. It's based in this particular location in Bahrain, where you see this massive explosion taking place. This is exactly what Iran spoke of, saying, while last time we were caught off guard, this time we're fully prepared. And that's what you're seeing essentially playing out on your screens. And it's not just Bahrain. Multiple countries where similar action is being seen right now of Iran hitting back at the US and targeting US bases, whether it is the US naval base in Bahrain or the air base in Qatar or in Kuwait. You've got that major command base. All of these are now being targeted systematically. Sure, America would have seen this coming. Sure, they would have been prepared for this. But this is Iran hitting back and saying very clearly that they will not sit back while missiles are fired at them. As we speak, there are also reports coming in of multiple such missiles and waves of drone attacks being fired also towards Israel. And that's the latest breaking news that's coming in right now, that the Israel defense system is working to ensure that any missile attack that happens is immediately thwarted. We've all heard of the famed Iron Dome. It's working right now to ensure that all counterattacks by Iran, which has kicked off, by the way, in the manner of drone attacks, in the form of missile attacks, all of that is immediately thwarted, which is why sirens are non-stop blazing through parts of Israel. Everyone has been told to go underground, to go into one of the makeshift bunkers that have been put up across Israel. There's a state of high alert. And it's not just a question of two countries here. It's not just a question of America, Israel, and Iran. This has spread and spread fast through and through the Middle East. As we get you all of the updates coming in, I can also confirm for you that an explosion has now been reported in Iraq, where one person has been reported dead. Unfortunately, as time goes on with the number of missile attacks we're seeing in each of these countries, we will also be seeing, tragically, that casualty count going up. As always, the casualty of war is a common civilian. But what we're seeing now is in Iraq, there's been an explosion. In Qatar, Iranian missiles were fired, but Qatar has maintained that all of them have been downed. And why are each of these countries being targeted? Because they have US bases in them. Almost every country in the Middle East, you look at Qatar, you look at UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, I can go on and on. Each of these countries have a strategic, important US bases, which is what Iran is trying to target to respond to Operation Epic Fury. That's what America has called the operation against Iran. I want to play out for you what US President Donald Trump said, an 8-minute statement where he spoke of why America has chosen to go ahead with Operation Epic Fury. Listen in.
And our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first.
And since that statement from US President Donald Trump, you've seen the war spread, escalate, and how we're getting you more footage from Bahrain of the attack of the US naval base in Bahrain by Iran. You can hear the sirens. Right after that, a massive boom as you see huge plumes of smoke. That's the point where, in fact, the naval base was hit. This is, in fact, the US Navy's Fifth Fleet that's based in this particular base in Bahrain. And there are many around the Middle East, many strategic locations that the US has bases on, whether it's Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, you have UAE, all of them have these strategic bases, and many of them have now been targeted by Iran in counter strikes that have been kicked off in a matter of hours by Iran. And this is exactly what the Iranian Foreign Minister Arakchi had told India today, that this time they're not going to sit by and watch if there's any strike by US and Israel. They will hit back. And that's exactly what we're seeing on our screens right now, that there are multiple such strikes taking place. In some cases, it's been successful, like this one in Bahrain. We still don't know if there have been any casualties. But in some other cases, like in Qatar, where there's been a statement from the government saying very clearly that every attack, missile strike by Iran was thwarted. But Iran is going all out now to hit back. Where exactly is the supreme leader? We don't know, but he's not in Tehran, because remember that at this point, this is a state of extreme high alert in Tehran with multiple strikes that had kicked off this entire war just hours ago. Imagine this, in a matter of hours, this was escalated into a multi-country war where now the Middle East, essentially, I'm not exaggerating, the Middle East is on fire. I'll highlight for you all of the US military bases that are present in the Middle East, because it gives you a sense of where these attacks have taken place by Iran. All surrounding, and it's important to highlight here that they're all close to Iran. Whether it's Bahrain, the footage of which you still see on your screens, this is a US naval base. In Qatar, you have the Al Udeid Air Base. That's also on alert. We understand that in Qatar, the attack was thwarted. Missiles were fired, but did not manage to hit. In Kuwait, where you have the very important logistics and command base, the Camp Arif Jan, that's been attacked too. Now, we don't know if that's the base or the other ones, because there's also an air base that's there in Kuwait. We're still awaiting those details, but we do know that Iran has struck these bases in Kuwait as well. In the UAE, where you have several bases again, including the very important Al Dhafra air base, that's been attacked. The amount of damage, we don't know just yet. Iraq, 2 explosions have been reported. 1 person has been reported dead as well. Now, let's put the focus on the latest footage that's coming in right now. I'm just going to confirm for you exactly where that location is coming in from. Okay, that's from Abu Dhabi in UAE. And you're seeing now every major part of the Middle East being rocked by explosions. Imagine the shock for the people of Abu Dhabi. On the streets of Abu Dhabi now, you're seeing plumes of smoke, explosions being reported. We don't know the nature of explosion at this point. Was it to target any important installation? Was this again at US bases? We'll get that confirmation for you, because at this point, there's footage trickling in from across the Middle East, from each of these countries, of attacks, of strikes, of counterattacks by Iran. Iran is making it very clear that whether it's Operation Roar of the Lion launched by Israel or Operation Epic Fury by America, both will be given a fitting response. As we speak, there have been reports also suggesting that there have been missile attacks at Israel as well, which Israel is actively thwarting, considering they have the Iron Dome, an active defense system that immediately warns them of any incoming missiles. There have been several warnings issued by the governments, by the regimes in the Middle East countries, warning citizens, residents to stay indoors, to stay safe. In some countries, they've asked them to also go into bunkers, to go into a duck and cover mode, to ensure that they remain safe in light of the strikes, explosions, missile attacks that have been reported in several parts, whether it's in Doha, Abu Dhabi, or several other locations, Bahrain, Kuwait. There have been reports of explosions in Iraq. I can go on and on. That list is long of countries now where the war has spread to. I'm going to bring in Yore Lieberman, who is joining us from Tel Aviv. First of all, Yore, I hope you're okay. I hope you and your family are safe. Take us through what's the situation currently in Tel Aviv. Are you in a bunker?
Yeah, hello. We just came out from the bunker. The bunker is right here behind me. There were several alarms this morning. Each time people were running to the bomb shelters. Few explosions have been heard quite from a distance. Jets are being heard as well from above. Reports have been said that from at the city of Haifa in the north of Israel, there were a few impacts, and security forces are on the way to check what happened. Yeah, situation is quite tense, and people are waiting to see how it develops.
Panic. I'd imagine that, with how unpredictable things are and the fact that we're seeing now strikes taking place across the Middle East, is there a sense of panic and worry among residents? Are sirens constantly going off? Have you been able to hear any explosions in Tel Aviv?
Well, sirens have been launched 2 or 3 times here in where I am. People are stressed running into the bomb shelters. This is the day off. This is a Saturday. It's a day off here. So people, all of them are at home. No one goes to work. People were running into the shelters, kids. We could see some dogs being brought in. Yeah, not really panic because people are used to it, but it's not a good situation and people are not feeling comfortable.
Right now, there, Yore, about the current situation and how perhaps things could pan out in the next few days.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question. Can you repeat?
I was asking you what's the communication that's come through from the Netanyahu government to the people of Israel, or what the situation could be perhaps in the coming days.
Well, we've been reported that Israel have started this strike together with the US. People are waiting for long days of war here, and a little bit unknown and unclear what will be next. Well, we don't really think it's gonna end quickly here. So people are getting prepared for a long-term stay at the bomb shelters and at least being nearby. People will not go to work tomorrow on the next few days until we will hear back from the government and what will be developed.
Yore, I also want to understand from you, we know that in light of what's happening and the missiles, drone attacks being fired by Iran, the Iron Dome has been active in thwarting some of those attacks. But has there been any confirmation on whether any of those missile attacks have actually hit some of their targets in Israel?
We've heard some impacts in the north city of Haifa. Okay. I do not know yet if no reports of any injured or human harms. So we're waiting to hear back from the security forces when to check the place.
Okay, we really hope there have been no casualties. But thank you very much, Yore, for joining us with that update. Stay safe out there. I hope you and your family are doing okay. For most Israelis, as Yore pointed out, this is something that they're used to, of, you're hearing sirens and rushing to the nearest bunker. But perhaps with the kind of escalation we're seeing right now, Israelis too are very, very concerned about what could happen in the days to come, looking at the situation right now. We're showing you more and more footage of what's really happening. On the left of your screens, you can see people gathered there in bunkers, trying to ensure that their loved ones remain safe. We're still getting in footage from many of the other Middle East countries that have also been essentially casualties of this escalation, that US bases and other establishments have been targeted in these countries. In some cases, like the case of Qatar, they have successfully managed to thwart all these attacks. But the likes of Bahrain, you can see the footage on your screens of the thick plumes of smoke emerging from the heart of their cities, which is so concerning to see, because you also then wonder whether there have been any casualties. I'll bring in also Ambassador Dogra on this broadcast. Ambassador, looking at the footage that's coming in, I'll just highlight that I've got from Ashkelon in Israel, footage of people coming together, offering prayers from a bunker, I presume, and that tells you really the mood in Israel. They're praying for their well-being, they're praying for the country, obviously at this time, considering that there has been what's been seen as an unprecedented escalation. But Ambassador Dogra, looking at the way it's spreading and spreading fast across the Middle East, one tends to wonder, this has happened in a matter of hours, what's the end game going to look like?
Well, quite frankly, I'm not surprised, because Iran had made it very clear that if the war is started by Israel-USA, then it will spread to the region. In fact, if I recall the words correctly, the region would be on fire. Iran is doing exactly that, and Iran is doing it for self-preservation. The other thing I want to point out is that throughout the negotiations, Iranian foreign minister had always come out of the meetings and said the meetings have been constructed and I look for a way forward. He was never negative, unlike the American negotiators with and Kushner. But America wanted to go to war, not for any specific reasons of Iranian mistakes or Iranian provocations, but because Trump wanted war and Netanyahu wanted war. Having started the war, now they have to bear the fruits of their actions. And the consequences are not going to be limited over today, tomorrow, or the day
Ambassador
after.
Dogra, they've thought this through, that Trump would have known full well that this perhaps was coming, that there could be attacks on US bases. I'm just going to also get in the latest updates coming in. We can confirm for you that there has now been a loud bang. We're going to presume that's an explosion that's been heard in Dubai. Explosions that have been heard in Riyadh as well. So you've got some of your biggest cities in the Middle East being targeted right now. Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Riyadh, all of them seeing, in fact, explosions being reported right now. Have there been casualties? We don't know just yet, because this is a live developing situation. It's escalating fast, it's moving quickly, and you're seeing essentially that the scope of this war is playing out in a massive scale across the Middle East right now. Whether it's in Bahrain, the US's naval base being hit, or in fact in Abu Dhabi, or in Dubai, there have been reports of explosions being heard in each of these locations. What will this really mean? Will the likes of the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar now also jump into this particular conflict, into this war? They will, of course, not sit quiet and allow these kind of explosions to take place. But Iran, keeping in mind the fact that they are now ready with their counter strategy, as they said earlier, they're firing missile after missile into every country that houses a US base. And amid that, they've issued an advisory to their own citizens saying, be indoors, stay safe, because it looks like Iran considers that there could be more missile strikes, a reaction to their hit back from US and Israel. I've got Ankit Kumar with me also from the newsroom. Ankit, take it away. We're seeing now this war escalating, spreading across the Middle East.
Akshita, we are trying to sum up everything that has been going on since morning. in the Middle East. It all starts with the Lincoln Carrier Strike Group. This is the biggest puzzle in this case. Between 10 and 10:30 local in Tehran today, the American and Israeli aircrafts and missiles struck right at the heart of the Iranian capital. Now, how did they manage it? How did they manage to pull this off? Because Iran, remember, has a sizable air defense options. They have Russian-built air defense missiles. Why did they not work? And the answer to that query lies in this carrier strike group. Remember, when this Abraham Lincoln CSG travels, it does not travel alone. It has thousands of Tomahawk cruise missiles. It has electronic warfare aircrafts, the Warthog, the Growlers, the F-15E strike options. What they do is they neutralize the interception and tracking capabilities, the Growler especially. Their main target is to neutralize the interception and tracking capabilities of the Iranian air defense systems. Now, that resulted into the air defense systems of Tehran ending up in a flying in a blind. And that is why you saw all the visuals, the streets, the buildings within the Iranian territory destroyed. Now, in response to the American and Israeli strike, what has happened is that Iranian missiles, Iranian ballistic missiles and drones have started to target strategic American assets. Now, what are the American assets in the region? You begin with the airbase in the UAE. Remember, America has an airbase in the UAE. As you move west, you find the Al Ubaid airbase.
Okay. All right. Ankit, I'm going to come back to you. Ankit, explaining to us exactly how these strikes took place hours ago. What started it off? US's Operation Epic Fury and Israel's Operation Roar of the Lion. That's what's triggered what you see right after that, this entire effect of every country in the Middle East seeing explosions of one kind or the other. I'll also highlight for all of our viewers watching this broadcast, anyone looking to travel internationally, do check on your flight status, because across the Middle East now, most countries have closed off their airspace. I can confirm for you that, the likes of Kuwait, Qatar have already closed off their airspace. Of course, Iraq, Iran, Israel, they've also temporarily closed off their airspace. So international flights, if you've got one planned for the next 24 hours or perhaps longer, there could be a challenge in that particular schedule. We already have learned of an Air India flight having returned midway after having taken off from Delhi for Tel Aviv. So just a quick alert there on also flight ops being hit as a result of what we're seeing right now. Most countries in the Middle East, looking at the barrage of missiles flying in and out, have closed off their airspace as a precautionary measure. As we get in more footage, I'm going to keep alerting you on exactly what we're seeing on our screens. That was brief glimpse really of an Israeli jet, but we'll get you that footage in greater detail. We're also continuing to focus on the impact of the initial strikes. Like I said, Operation Epic Fury launched by America, Operation Roar of the Lion launched by Israel. All focused on targeting Iran, led to multiple explosions in Tehran. And so what you see on your screens is also the impact of those explosions. We still don't know at this point about casualties, but Israel did highlight that all of their strikes were focused on targeting Iranian government establishments. And as we tell you all of those updates that are coming in, Iran has very clearly sent out a message saying they're not going to hold back. They will be attacking every single US base in the Middle East within their reach. Where their missiles can get, they will go ahead and target those bases. Okay, presumably that's footage of Israeli jets in the skies just as they launched their operation and their strikes against Iran, but I'll get that confirmed for you. I'll also bring in on this broadcast Lieutenant General KGS Dhillon, defense expert. General Dhillon, what we're seeing is unprecedented, but this was something that many warned was bound to happen, General Dhillon, that a conflict between Iran, Israel and US wouldn't be limited to just that. It would spread. Footage coming in now from Abu Dhabi, if I'm not wrong, also of explosions.
Good evening, Akshita, and good evening to the fellow panelists and all our viewers. Good afternoon, sorry. See, this was imminent. This was to happen because USA tried their best to undertake a regime change in Iran by initiating or supporting an internal uprising, so to say. When that did not succeed, and USA somehow or the other wanted the present regime in Iran to go. And Israel was already engaging with Iran in various war efforts. And if you remember, if the viewers remember, Americans had also targeted the nuclear assets last time. So this attack by Israel or by USA through Israel to start with on Iran is a continuation of that. And the statement that we are targeting only the government offices is definitely a statement to say that we only want the regime change and we are not against the Iranian population. Israel is calling it preemptive or preventive. And as you are bringing out in your bulletin also, Iran's reaction on Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, the US assets in those areas is trying to bring in USA into the battle. So it's a thing which is happening there, and there are going to be long-term and short-term impacts of this. We can discuss them as we go along.
Absolutely. I mean, just the impact of what we're seeing right now. In a matter of hours, this has spread so fast because Iran has made it clear we're not going to sit back and allow these kind of strikes to repeatedly take place. Iran has said very clearly that every US base within our reach will now be targeted, and that's exactly what they've done. The Iranian Foreign Minister, Araghchi, speaking to India Today just a couple of days ago, said that yes, we're all for peace, we're open to dialogue, but if there's escalation from Trump, if there's escalation from Netanyahu, we will not hesitate to hit back. The consequence of the two operations launched by US and Israel today is currently on your screens as well. As we get you all the latest updates, also we can confirm for you that in Abu Dhabi, there's been an explosion that's taken place in which one person has been killed. The UAE intercepted an Iranian missile, but in most of these cases, what happens then is that while the missile is intercepted, it also falls into some of the civilian settlements, which is why in the case of Abu Dhabi, we've seen one casualty being reported as well. Now, what's also been confirmed right now, and statements coming in from Israel saying we will hit back for every attempt by Iran to hit out at us. Right now, the Israeli defensive system is taking on the load of missiles that are being fired by Iran. There were reports that suggested that these were somewhere between 30 to 75 missiles about 2 hours ago. So in the last 2 hours itself, that number would have greatly increased. Iran is going all out to target Israel and to target America. How are they targeting America? By targeting all of these US strategic military bases in the Middle East countries, which is why in Abu Dhabi, in several other locations, you're seeing footage like this of people scrambling, trying to save their lives in what would otherwise have been an extremely ordinary Saturday for so many people stepping out of their homes with their families for a day out. And suddenly you've got war clouds spreading across these cities. West Asia, Middle East, fully right now in conflict mode. Now, I can also confirm for you that Israel has also is bearing the brunt of the missiles being fired by Iran. They are, of course, trying their hardest to ensure that every counter attack by Iran is thwarted. But I can tell you that Israeli media is saying that a 9-story building in northern Israel has been struck by Iranian missiles, causing significant damage. Our reporters on ground in Tel Aviv also did confirm this, saying that there are pockets of North Israel that's seen some impact right now of the blast of the missile attacks by Iran. So I can tell you that in North Israel, there have been some buildings that have been hit right now. All right, there's a statement that's coming in right now from the European Union that's condemned the escalation in the Middle East. They've also confirmed that, in fact, and this is EU's Kajaz, who said that I've spoken to Israel's foreign minister and other ministers in the region. The EU is closely coordinating with Arab partners to explore diplomatic paths. So EU essentially seemingly trying to mediate between Iran and Israel. How successful will they be? We'll have to see. But there will be such attempts by several countries to kind of tone things down. Is it actually possible? Have we gone too far? That's the question right now that will be asked as well, Ambassador Dogra, about whether with this kind of escalation and Iran hitting back, there is no going back now. There is going to be no middle ground, no mediation that will actually work.
Well, in any war situation, let's hope there is ground for stepping back from the brink, because Iran, as well as Israel and America, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, are on the brink, because America is not going to be safe, nor is Israel, nor are the regional countries. In fact, I'll recall for you your own words that they must have thought it through. I presume you meant USA. Yes, US strategic experts had thought it through. They had advised repeatedly, almost every one of them, including the army chief, that don't get into this. This will end up with great injury to America and its reputation. In fact, the other historical fact is that after the Second World War, except for the two Iraq wars, America has not won any war wherever it has fought. So this might be an addition to that distinguished list. As far as EU is concerned, firstly, it does not have the reputation of an honest broker that Oman had. Oman tried its best. In fact, its foreign minister went on television yesterday in America to say Iran has accepted every nuclear term that America had asked for. But America was not prepared to listen, or Trump was not prepared to listen. Trump wanted this war because he was under attack in America for Epstein issue. Secondly, Trump has the lowest rating of any president in American history currently.
But that's a big price to pay then, Ambassador Dogra, that you've got the world on fire just to ensure that you get the fire off your back domestically.
Well, there are so many examples like this, Hitler being one. America has a reputation of inventing terms and issues to its convenience. What was the need for the Second Iraq War? Iraq, America knew very well, did not have weapons of mass destruction, but it wanted the war. So similarly here, it wanted the war for personal reasons. Whether we accept it or not is a different thing. But Iran, on the other hand, has been the voice of reason in all these negotiations. His foreign minister came out of every negotiation saying that, it's constructive. I'm looking forward to more meaningful dialogue. But American negotiators came out with negative comments on out of every negotiation. So Iran, please remember, has had an earlier experience with America when it fought a war with Iraq, backed by America for 7 years. And America was not able to prevail over Iran. So Iran has, as an old civilization, as a determined civilization, and as a very proud nation, is not going to break easily or bend easily.
Yeah, I'll just get a quick update for our viewers right now. What's happening in the Middle East? I can confirm for you that Jordan's military, in a statement, has said that it's downed 2 ballistic missiles that were targeting the country. Jordan has confirmed that there were attempts by Iran to fire these missiles. 2 of them were fired towards them. Both have been downed. We will get you more details of what's happening in the other Middle East countries as well. In Iraq, we can tell you that airstrikes have killed at least 2 people. This has happened, in fact, in Iraq's Jurf al-Sakr. Similarly, in Abu Dhabi, there's been a strike, an explosion in which 1 person has died. It's obviously too early right now to get a sense of the scale of casualties that have been reported. But as the information is trickling in, I am going to be getting you those updates as well. Now, at this point, we don't know also, very importantly here, what's happening in Iran. Where is the supreme leader, Khamenei? Those updates are at this point unknown. We don't have a confirmation on his whereabouts, just that he's out of Tehran and not in danger, considering that we did see Khamenei's residence being attacked also in the strikes that took place earlier today. I'd also like to introduce on this broadcast Natasha Hostorf, who is an Israeli security analyst and lawyer. She's joining us from London. Natasha, thank you for your time. These are unfortunate circumstances that we're having a conversation in, but I want to understand your perspective of how you see these strikes playing out. What really to you is Israel and US's strategy game plan here? Do you think they were fully prepared for this kind of a massive counter from Iran?
Well, firstly, I'm afraid I must correct you. I'm a British lawyer, barrister based in London. I'm very happy to speak to that and, of course, the legal implications of what we've been witnessing over the last few hours. But first, I have to respond to the absolutely extraordinary remarks that I've just been hearing from your previous commentator. If calling for the state of Israel, to be wiped off of the map is the voice of reason, as it was suggested, the Iranians have been in this respect, then I really question, whether reason in fact exists or whether it's been thrown out of the window, as we've heard from many of the apologists of the Iranian regime. This action has been a long time coming, as the statement of the president set out, where he charted out the history of Iranian aggression, including against America, since the revolution itself, with the very famous taking of American hostages. The fact of the matter is that the American buildup of military infrastructure in the region indicates that this option has been on the cards, on the table for many weeks, if not months. And the failure to address the key issues for the West, frankly, with respect to the Iranian regime has necessitated this action. But in looking, and so to answer your question on, whether America is ready for this, I don't think, frankly, from the buildup of military infrastructure, they could have been readier. But this question as to, what has prompted this action, I think needs to be seen differently from the Israeli perspective as from the American perspective. Israel is different because it has been in a state of war with the Iranian regime, and I make a distinction here with the Iranian people. Your previous commentator seemed to allied the two. The Islamic regime in Iran has been oppressing its people, as well as being the foremost state sponsor of terrorism in the region, as well as threatening many other states in the Persian Gulf and the state of Israel. So I do make that distinction, and it's important.
Sure.
There has been an ongoing war between the Iranian regime, the Islamic government there, and the state of Israel for decades. And much of this has been waged through proxies, but of course, in the last couple of years, we've seen direct Iranian strikes against Israel. And in the context of that ongoing war, the legal framework that is applied is in relation to the strikes that Israel is conducting, whether they are proportionate, whether they are targeting military infrastructure. We don't have the information, the detail on those to make that assessment yet. But the activity of military engagement between Israel and Iran shouldn't come as a surprise. Then we come on to analyze the US position. And the US president was clear that he was launching essentially a preemptive strike.
Yeah.
Because
Natasha, my apologies for interrupting, and I'm going to request you to stay with me, but we are getting in more information coming in. This is an evolving situation right now, but the confirmation we can get you is that yes, Israel did strike the Iran Supreme Leader Khamenei's residence. That confirmation is now in. There's also footage. There's footage on your screens right now. That's in the heart of Tehran, that Khamenei's residence has been struck. We can also confirm for you that Khamenei was not at his residence when this particular attack happened. He's not in Tehran. We don't know the exact location. For obvious reasons, the Iranian government will not divulge exactly where he is, but he is safe in hiding currently. But the confirmation coming in right now that they did target the Supreme Leader's residence, perhaps to send out a very clear message, as many of our panelists have been pointing out, that the likes of Israel and US are targeting the regime here, not the people of Iran, but the regime, the Iranian regime. And to make that clear distinction, messaging on your screens by targeting the Supreme Leader's residence as well. I can also tell you, and we know the targets now of Israel's attack. One was the commander-in-chief of Iran's military. The other was the commander of the Revolutionary Guards, the commander of the Air Force of the Revolutionary Guards, commander of the intelligence division of the Revolutionary Guards, and other senior officials. These were the targets in Israel's strikes this morning. One of them was the Supreme Leader's residence, at Khamenei's residence in Tehran. There was a massive explosion that was reported, but we can tell you right now that he wasn't at his residence, and that's been confirmed by Iran as well. He was not in Tehran, is in hiding. His whereabouts at this point are unknown. But Iran, right after this, issued a statement saying they will not sit quiet. while these attacks continue, which is why we've been seeing these massive counter attacks, missiles, drone attacks being fired, not just at Israel, but also at US bases across the Middle East. Footage on your screens here on India Today of the attack on Khamenei's residence as well. As we continue to get you those updates, I'll bring back Natasha on this broadcast. Natasha, the reason there are so many questions about what the trigger was is because just a couple of days ago, the Iranian foreign minister had spoken to India Today and had highlighted that they are very much open to a conversation, to dialogue, that they are batting for peace too, and that only if there is an attack or intimidation or a provocation from US or Israel, would they have to hit back?
I think public statements by representatives of the Islamic regime in Iran need to be seen in their proper context, which were delay tactics. Since the June strikes by Israel and the United States on the Iranian nuclear program, every report indicated that they were seeking to rebuild, resurrect this program, and look for breakout capability. Not just Israel and the United States, but other allies, including the United Kingdom, have come out with statements this morning making it clear Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. In the context of the Iranians seeking to draw out the situation, to play for time with these sorts of public statements while acting so contrary in continuing to develop their nuclear programs, which is non-negotiable for the United States in particular, I think we have a clear indication that the talk and the walk were some very, very significant distance apart. So in those circumstances, I think we have to take at face value what the public statements of the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of the United States have been. This was an imminent threat with respect to the Iranian nuclear program. Because they were seeking to build so far underground, it would have reached a stage that it would have been impenetrable. It would have been impossible for the United States to prevent an Iranian nuclear force emerging if action had not been taken now. That is the information that we have now from the Americans.
Okay, so that you say was the trigger for this latest strike that we've seen on Iran. Just more updates that are coming in, which I'll highlight for our viewers. There have been explosions that have been reported in Riyadh as well. Remember that there are US bases in Saudi, which is now being targeted actively by Iran. I can also tell you that in Abu Dhabi, while we've seen an explosion being reported, some residents of Abu Dhabi have also received a clear alert instructing them to shelter in closest secure buildings to steer away from windows due to missile threats. So the UAE also now taking all possible measures to ensure the safety of their residents. A statement that's just come in from Israel. And I did highlight for you that Khamenei's residence was also targeted in the course of these strikes that took place in Tehran, in Iran this morning. Now, while Iran has maintained that their supreme leader is safe, was not in Tehran, is at an undisclosed location, Israel's statement says that yes, we targeted the Iran supreme leader and the Iranian president. The result of the strike is unclear. So they're not ruling out that they've managed to hit the target, meaning that they've targeted and hit the supreme leader where he's based. We don't know that particular communication from Iran. Iran says, no, he's perfectly safe. He was not in Tehran. But I'll bring in General Dhillon also on this broadcast. General, you heard what Natasha has to say. Are you in agreement with that? That essentially this was a long time coming, that Iran asked for this and there was no other way out, that this kind of a conflict was bound to happen because of them ignoring all possible warnings?
Thank you, Akshita. See, Israel will have a point of view, Americans will have a point of view, and Iran will have a point of view. The fact of the matter is, USA wanted a regime change in Iran, and that is why this is happening, what is happening. And not getting into one-on-one with the Israeli spokesperson, I respect their point of view. Yeah. What's going to happen now is, Persian Gulf is a very congested place. As the strikes are happening in Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, Qatar, Bahrain, and also in Iran, there are foreign vessels, there are military vessels, there are, that maritime or the merchant vessels inside Bahrain. Now, there will be miscalculations, there will be mistaken identities, there will be accidents. So there will be attacks on other countries merchant vessels or the hits from the other countries' merchant vessels, and it's going to become a little muddy out there. But one important aspect which must be discussed here is Iran's air defense, because this war is more or less a war of projectiles and missiles and drones. So air defense plays a very important role. Now here, Pakistan comes into play. If Iran's complete air defense is only facing southwards towards anything coming from the Arabian Sea or American bases in the Persian Gulf or Israel, it's very formidable air defense. Now, for their air defense to be weakened, Iran's eastern flank has to be opened. That means from Pakistani side, either Pakistan's airspace has to be used or Pakistan's air bases has to be used so that Iran shifts certain assets of air defense towards their eastern flank and thus weaken the southern air defense flank. Now, for that to happen, Pakistan is a country which can be bought with few dollars. And it will be interesting how Pakistan will behave in this war. Will it be fighting side by side with Israel against a fellow Islamic country in the region? Or will it not give their airspace and air bases to Americans and Israelis to use from the eastern flank of Israel? So I think from the military man's point of view, interesting days ahead. And most important is the Strait of Hormuz. If Strait of Hormuz is mined or not allowed to be used by the merchant vessels, I think there's going to be a blockade, and which is going to impact the whole world economically.
Well, to me, already the whole world is impacted with what we're seeing. But you make an important point, General, also about the Strait of Hormuz, because the last time also that we saw this kind of an escalation, that was one of the biggest talking points about how the strait will also be weaponized in a way to ensure that the entire world is affected by the escalation we're seeing right now. This is beyond an escalation. This is now a full-blown war that's playing out. And the question that will be asked is, where will this end? Who will have to mediate for some sort of peace and calm to be restored in the Middle East? Because right now, the kind of information that's trickling in, it's minute after minute of explosions, of missile attacks being reported in the Middle East. I'll get you Trump's latest message that's coming in right now. He's posted at this point on social media saying Iran tried to interfere in 2020-2024 elections to stop Trump and now faces renewed war with the United States. Trump essentially has attached a detailed article that refers to interference in the elections by Iran as well. This is a statement that Trump has made, essentially trying to suggest that the Iranian regime had it coming. Remember, he issued an 8-minute statement, and that's in fact the latest post on social media. He, in his 8-minute message, spoke of the nuclear program by Iran, spoke about how they are taking on the Iranian regime, spoke of terror proxies, and now speaks of election interference. And in the article that is attached, says Iran tried to interfere in 2020-2024 elections to stop Trump and now faces renewed war with the United States. I can also confirm for you that there will in fact be a statement that comes in from the US president, from Donald Trump. For them, of course, and we understand it will be later tonight on Saturday morning, America time. So that's going to be later in the evening for us, where Trump is going to detail out exactly what Operation Epic Fury has actually accomplished. That's the term that's being used by America right now. They've referred to this operation against Iran as Operation Epic Fury. Israel is calling it Operation Roar of the Lion. Okay, more news that's coming in right now of an explosion at an airbase in northern Iraq as well. Now, I'm going to keep running you through these details because unfortunately, with what's playing out and the manner in which we're seeing news trickling in, it's very clear that this isn't going to end. Every minute, we're going to continue getting alerts of more explosions, of more attacks taking place across the Middle East. We've never seen it escalate to this level, where you've got Iran also hitting back in equal measure and targeting many locations spread across. Every single target within their reach, they've now hit out at it. And as General Dillon also highlighted, this could spread further. If Pakistan is roped in, which at this point is in a catch-22 situation, then you're going to see things only get worse, escalate further. at this point. Now, Iran will, in fact, and Iran has issued a statement saying that our forces will go ahead and defend the country in every manner that we deem fit. They also demanded intervention by the United Nations, saying there must be an immediate meeting by the UN to consider and address what they call an unprovoked attack by US and Israel. Israel at this point has made it very clear that if these counterattacks by Iran continue, they will be forced to continue with their strikes. And you could see a fresh wave of missiles headed towards Iran once again. Now, there's a statement that's come in from Saudi Arabia. The Foreign Ministry of Saudi has condemned the Iranian attacks on UAE, on Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait and Jordan. Remember, Riyadh was also targeted in this wave of strikes. So what you're seeing is all of these Middle East countries will now essentially take a stand against Iran. And so can Iran actually afford to go ahead and on this path of targeting every single one of their neighbors, every single one of these countries? That's something we'll have to see. But they made it very clear that they're not going to hold back. I'll bring in on this broadcast also Avital Leibovich, former IDF spokesperson, who's joining us on this broadcast. Avital, thank you for your time. I hope you're safe. Wherever you are right now, I hope you and your family is doing okay. There's a lot that's playing out right now in the Middle East. We're seeing an unprecedented escalation, Avital. And the question that will be asked is whether Israel is fully prepared for whatever counter comes its way from Iran.
Yeah, so let's just break for a minute the word you say, unprecedented. What we have been seeing for the last 4 hours is something that we have actually seen before. In other words, we have seen Iran launch exactly that type of ballistic missiles towards Israel or Israeli targets all over the country. This is not unprecedented. What is unprecedented is the fact that they chose to also fire these missiles to many Gulf countries as well. By the way, from their perspective, they may want to make some sort of a point, but from an operational perspective, they're actually minimizing their arsenal because they're dividing the arsenal between so many countries in the region. From an Israeli perspective, all the civilians here received at 8:13 a.m. a message to their cell phones asking them to stay near shelters, and followed by half an hour later, we all entered into shelters and we left them just a few minutes ago. So the country is very well prepared. We have 4 layers of air defense capabilities here protecting the country. And as the result of the last 3.5 hours of Iranian ballistic missiles, there were very few parts of missiles that landed here, no damage in human lives, which is the most important thing. So overall, definitely Israel has prepared for a long time and is prepared for this kind of attack.
Avital, can you just confirm for me, because there have been some reports that have suggested of missile hits in northern Israel. Have you been able to pick up anything on that?
So there was one hit on a house, on a private house. I saw some pictures, but no damage in human life. And that's the only current hit that I'm familiar with.
Okay, so that's the one strike that's been reported. There is a video, and we're just going to play that out for you, that the Israeli Air Force has released of fighter jets that were taking off for strikes in Iran. This is presumably in the dead of night, just as they were getting set to strike Iran. You know, there was a lot of talk that this was a long time coming, that this was bound to happen. But the timing of it was kept top secret, which is why suddenly when it happened, it came as a huge surprise to the world. And we'll just play out that video for you in just a bit. The video released by the Israeli Air Force showing fighter jets taking off for the strikes in Iran. There were multiple locations in Tehran that were targeted, all, mind you, military and government establishments, with a very clear message being sent across by Israel and the US that they're not targeting the people of Iran, but targeting the Iranian regime. And that's something that US President Donald Trump has also highlighted. We'll play out that video for our viewers as well of the Israeli Air Force. But in the meanwhile, let me also bring in Balik Sladin, who is an I-24 news reporter joining us from Tel Aviv right now. Balik, I'll begin with the latest updates that you can get for us on the current situation in Tel Aviv and across Israel, please.
It's also said that just a few minutes ago, the Israeli authorities have told the Israeli citizens in all over Israel that they can actually get out of the shelter. That's after 1.5 hours. Approximately that they were inside the shelter because of course, the several sirens that we have heard all over Israel, north, center, and also in the south. And as also your guest has said, until now, there hasn't been any damage, any serious damage that has been caused as a result of these missiles. To my understanding, only one missile that, because it was going to an open area, actually, and that's why Israel let that missile hit the ground, because it wouldn't cause any damage. In another incident in the north, where apparently a missile was intercepted, and as a result of the shrapnels that came out of this interception, one person has been lightly wounded and was taken to the hospital. Now, regarding Israel's targets here, we're talking here about very serious developments in recent minutes. Apparently, Israeli sources are starting to talk about their initial targets in Iran. We're talking here about targeting top officials, including
my
Ali
apologies.
Khamenei,
Just give me a few
Supreme Leader.
moments. I'm going to come back to you. I just want to
Yes.
play out the video that's been released by the Israeli Air Force as well, showing exactly how these strikes were conducted. We'll play that out for you, folks. Okay, apologies. We're just going to get that up for you. The audio of the entire video that's been released right now by the Israeli Air Force, showing exactly how these strikes were carried out. The fighter jets taking off and dropping those missiles at specific strategic chosen locations in the heart of Tehran. And as we get you all of these updates that are coming in, this is the first footage released by Israel. Remember, they've called it Operation Roar of the Lion. That's the name they've given this particular operation, where they've said that this is in fact to target the Iranian regime. There is a statement that came in from the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu as well on the reason why they chose to kick off this kind of an operation. And he's highlighted how repeatedly the supreme leader of Iran has targeted Israel, saying that they continue with their nuclear program, and that's why Israel and US decided to go ahead with these strikes. We're getting in more information on the latest updates and those strikes that took place in Tehran. We can confirm for you that 5, in fact, have died. This is as a result of the strike targeting also an elementary school in Iran. And 5 children have died. This is at least what the media reports suggest. So we're going to be independently verifying that also for our viewers. But Balig, I'll bring you back in on those updates that you were giving us. Look, you did tell us at this point that the sirens have gone off. Everyone's been told that they can come back out. But the next 24 hours also will be crucial. Has the Israeli government issued any communication or whether they see a fresh wave of strikes coming?
Well, until now, we are getting continuous updates, of course, from the IDF spokesperson, as well as from the other authorities in Israel that tells us, of course, to stay near, or at least to locate the nearest shelter. So at any time that we get the information, by the way, to our phones immediately. And that's in addition to the sirens that we hear in the specific area where that missile would be going to. So we are required to stay near a shelter, or at least locate where is the nearest shelter in order to get to there as soon as possible. We are saying that Israel is also giving several notifications in advance. We're not talking only about when the missiles getting closer to Israel. Apparently, intelligence as well as satellite images, as well as continuous, of course, monitoring of the situation in Iran can also tell Israel that there is some arrangement in Iran to fire toward Israel, and that's how they give us in advance at least several minutes to stay near shelter. And then when that missiles get closer to Israeli airspace, then it tells us to get inside that shelter. It will take 1 minute to 1.5 minutes until that missile hits, or of course intercepted. In most cases until now, those missiles were intercepted.
Okay, I'm just going to come back to you, Balig. Request you to stay with me. The latest update that's coming in is that several explosions have been heard in Abu Dhabi, very close to the city's main airport. This is the latest information that's coming in. The situation very, very worrying right now in the United Arab Emirates as well, in the UAE, whether it's Dubai or Abu Dhabi. There have been reports coming in of explosions. In Abu Dhabi, there's also been a confirmation of one civilian dying, being a casualty as a result of these explosions. But I can tell you that now several explosions have been heard in Abu Dhabi near the city's main airport. The reason we're seeing these kind of explosions, blasts, attacks taking place, not just in Iran, Israel and America, but spread across, is because of the US bases in the Gulf countries, whether it's in a UAE, in a Kuwait, a Bahrain, a Saudi, they all have US bases. Iran is trying to hit back at these bases, well within reach, by the way, for Iran, which is why you're seeing these kind of attacks, these missile strikes happening non-stop right now. The latest information is of explosions being heard near the Abu Dhabi airport. We're going to confirm for you exactly whether that's led to any casualties or not. As we speak right now, there's a new wave of explosions that have also been heard in Doha, in Qatar. We're going to be getting you these updates from different cities across the Gulf, where I can tell you that across the Middle East countries right now, there's chaos. The Middle East, viewers, is on fire as a result of what's happening between Iran, US and Israel. But the question that will be asked is about alienation of Iran. The manner in which they've gone ahead with these counter-attacks, firing missiles at all of these countries. Every single one of these countries will now condemn Iran for what's happened, will take on Iran for what's happened. But the Iranian regime has made it very clear that that's not going to stop them. They've made it very clear that they will continue their strikes to target these US bases. There's no doubt that America saw this coming, was fully prepared for the US bases to be targeted in the manner that it is right now. But I can tell you that in Doha, there's been a fresh wave of explosions. In Abu Dhabi, very close to the airport, which is an extremely commercial area, there have been reports of explosions once again. So if you thought that, there's been a lull, that Iran is done with its counter-strike, most definitely not. We're seeing non-stop news breaks, information trickling in right now of explosions being reported in every single one of these cities, in the heart of the city. And remember, it's a Saturday. Most people were out with their families, and there are warnings now issued by the government, by their regimes, saying everyone must be indoors, stay safe. India also, by the way, has issued a statement for all Indians in Iran to stay indoors, to not step out, and to be safe. Most countries right now have taken this step of ensuring advisories are issued with the situation as it is, and it being as unpredictable as it is. They are not taking any chances. But Iran isn't stepping back. I'm going to play out for you, and we'll just get that up for you, an excerpt of what the Iranian foreign minister, Araghchi, had told India today. We'd spoken to him just a couple of days ago on, in fact, the conversation on what's happening and the conversation with US. He's been the man essentially leading the talks, the dialogue with America, the Geneva round of talks, which clearly wasn't fruitful, courtesy the images on your screens as evidence and proof that just essentially collapsed. But we will get you that excerpt of the Iranian foreign minister speaking to India today, where he said that, look, if there is any escalation, any provocation, Iran will not sit back and watch. Iran will hit back, Iran will attack. And that's exactly what's happening right now. His message was very clear that they will be, if we want peace, Iran says we want peace, but if there is an attempted war, they will hit back, and how. And that's what's playing out right now on your screens with all the images coming in. Let's play out for you that sequence with the Iranian foreign minister.
Donald Trump has put Iran on notice yet again. What's your reaction? Is Iran prepared?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. On your question, of course we are prepared. We are fully prepared for both options. War, God forbid, and peace. As you know, I'm going to Geneva this afternoon, in order to have the third round of our talks with the US team. And we have made some progress last time. We were able to find some sort of understandings. And I think based on those understandings, we can build something in the form of an agreement, a deal. I think a fair, balanced, and equitable deal is achievable, and we can do it. Of course, our armed forces are prepared to do their job, and we know how to defend ourselves, and this is what we did last time. And we have learned lots of lessons from the last war, so we are even more prepared. And that means, by the way, that the aim is to prevent a war. When you are prepared for a war, you can prevent it. Otherwise, you are inviting it to your home. So we are fully prepared, not because we want war, because we want to prevent the war. I'm a man of diplomacy. I have to talk about my own job. And I think the way we are going to is the best possible way to resolve this problem. There is no military option for Iran's peaceful nuclear program. If there is any concern, if there is any question, if there is any ambiguity, we are ready to address. We are ready to answer questions. We are ready to remove concerns, but we are not ready to give up our right for peaceful use of nuclear technology. This is what we demand. So I believe that tomorrow in Geneva, there is every possibility to come to an agreed solution which is fair and balanced.
So the Iranian regime making it very clear they'll not hold back. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now as well. We've got your ground reports from Tel Aviv, from Israel. Let's take a look at what's happening in Iran right now. We've got Zamir Abbas joining us live from Qom in Iran. Zamir, first of all, hope you, your family are all doing okay. What's been the impact of the strikes that took place hours ago, Zamir, in Iran?
Thank you very much for having me on the show, and our salutations to all our Indian citizens, our friends, our brothers, sisters. I hope everybody is safe wherever they are in all the countries. Let me start off with saying, Alhamdulillah, I'm okay, and my family is fine. I'm in Qom, so in Qom there was not such an attack. So the details of this attack is pending, inshallah. Let me start off with, first of all, saying that there were nuclear negotiations going on. And yesterday I was with your senior reporter Geeta Mohanji, and also with Katie ma'am. I was with them yesterday in Qom, and they said they saw everything, and they reported from Qom and Tehran as well. It is very clear betrayal from the United States when they were talking yesterday. Foreign Minister of Oman, he gave an interview in United States. In Face of the Nation was the name of the program. He clearly stated that Iran had accepted almost all the conditions put forward by United States, which during the negotiations, not what was in the media. So this is completely betrayal by the United States, and it proves that this unilateral attack is illegal according to all United Nations laws. And this shows that we live in a jungle Raj today. What happened in Venezuela?
It's one version versus another. It's one version versus another. Iran says we were okay, we were in talks, things were moving forward. America and Israel say absolutely not. Iran was continuing to develop their nuclear program, which is why we chose to strike. I'll also highlight right now, Zamir, as a result of what we've seen, is that we're seeing now counterattacks by Iran across the Gulf, across the Middle East. You know, we're seeing now an unprecedented escalation. This is full-blown war in the Middle East. And Iran then is doing this at the cost of alienation by all their neighbors.
Okay. First of all, this is not a virgin. I mean, the attack according to United Nations law is illegal. Point number two, Iran is building a nuclear bomb in few weeks. This is, if you can go on Google and search it, in 1994 is Benjamin Netanyahu released a video in 94, 31 years ago. He said that Iran is going to build a nuclear bomb in few weeks. Okay, so this propaganda that Iran is building a nuclear bomb or nuclear facilities has to be from a third party and has to be from an internationally recognized organization. You cannot say sitting in United States or Washington or Tel Aviv what should happen in any other country. So if the IAEA chief says something, it has to be accepted. And IAEA chief previously when they attacked, he clearly said that we don't have any evidence that Iran is building a nuclear weapon. So if I say that there is a Satan inside somebody's house and I attack that house, and because I say there is a Satan inside that house, I am allowed to attack that house. What kind of law?
No, but 1 second, Zamir. 1 second, Zamir. See what the news break that's just coming in right now. Qatar's foreign ministry says it reserves the right of response after Iranian attack. Where is this going to end, Zamir? Has Iran thought this through? When you fire missiles at Kuwait, when you fire missiles at UAE, when you fire missiles at Saudi Arabia, you're then calling for an all-out war where every country will now join hands with perhaps the US, Israel, because you've got a common enemy of a country firing missiles in your soil.
Okay. First of all, just a small correction. They're not attacking the soil. They're attacking US bases inside those countries. Yes, so this has to be clarified that Iran has the right, according to the international law, to hit back for self-defense. This is according to the law. So whatever Iran is doing is within the international law. So if Iran was attacked illegally, Iran has the right to self-defense legally. Point number two, Iran clearly stated this, okay? You cannot do this. You can, or on a sovereign nation, once, you say, oh, we are bringing in fleets, we're going to attack you, we are going to attack you. What kind of world we live in? So if you constantly terrorize a sovereign nation, Iran has the right to respond back. Secondly, Iran clearly stated, Ayatollah Khamenei clearly stated, this time it will be a regional war. And yes, all these puppet governments which are there in the Middle East, their existence is based on American and Israeli support. What kind of, for example, Trump comes and speaks and he says, in Saudi Arabia, the government would not be there except for 10 days if you do not support them. So we as the people of Iran, the government of Iran doesn't want a war which is between the Muslim countries and the neighbors. But yes, if Iranian missiles cannot reach United States, it will definitely hit back to all the people, all the bases which are there in United States, and definitely Israel. You know, last time when Iran was able to hit Israel, the mayor of Haifa, he said that if this war continues for 10 days, nothing would be left in Haifa. This is the mayor of Haifa. So Iran has the ability and the ballistic missiles and the hypersonic missiles to hit back. Yes, they have the ability to hit Iran. Iran has the ability to hit back, and Iran has proven this, that Iran is not going to step back and allow this terrorism to go on, the barbarism to go on. You bring in the fleets and say, we'll attack you, we'll attack you.
You've used a very strong word. No, Samir, you used a very strong word calling it terrorism. US and Israel say our war is not against the people of Iran. It's against the Iranian regime. It's against the supreme leader.
Okay, 34 million people came to support the Islamic government. It's not a regime, it's a government. 34 million people came on 11th of February, which is 22 Bahman. Were they aliens? Did they come from the moon? They are not Iranians. And people sitting in Washington and Tel Aviv, they are Iranians. They will tell Iran what to do. They will tell the Iranian people what to do. Look, who will decide? Okay, they believe in democracy, and they believe they bring Shara, who is Golani, who was a terrorist, announced by the United States. They make him the president of United States, and president of Syria. And Trump says, I installed him. What kind of war against terrorism do they have? They're making president a person who's a terrorist. And all the West Asian countries which you're talking about, they're all kings. Where is democracy? So all these fake liberal, what they did in Venezuela, what they're doing throughout the world. I'm an Indian, and the tariffs that they brought about to India was very offensive. And unfortunately, we as Indians, we did not demand Israel to condemn it. The first country to condemn the tariff against the Indian government was Iran. Iran stood with India, and we stand with India and Indians. But also, I expect that we as Indians who fought a war against colonialism, who brought about freedom against colonialism and imperialism, the world looks up to us. That we will stand
I will go back,
against the
Samir, one second. I will go back to highlight once again the statement that's coming in from different countries who have been seeing explosions in the likes of Abu Dhabi. There's also been a civilian who's died as a result of the strike, as you highlight, on a US base. These countries will not keep quiet. They're talking already about how they reserve the right to a response. In such a situation, and I've already asked you this, Zamir, about alienation that Iran is facing now in the Gulf as a result of targeting all of these US bases. In a situation where there's a response, what will Iran do? Look, right now you're firing counter-missile strikes. If there are 5 countries in your neighborhood that you're up against, what will Iran do?
Countries so far. Look, okay, let me put it this way. First is Iran clearly warned them. 2, these attacks are on the American air bases. 3, diplomatically, Iranian channels will speak to them in a diplomatic language that this war is not against them, but it is against those countries. And clearly, I mean, we all know that these regimes, they do not have any power within themselves. They only act what the United States and Israel wants them to do. This is very clear. I mean, anybody, what happened in Gaza, 70,000 people were killed by Israel, 40,000 of them were children. What did all these Arab kings do? And the whole Muslim world, the population living in those countries, stand with Iran, stand with the Islamic government. It is these regimes who are connected
Zamir,
to the American and
I'm cutting
Western
across. I
regimes.
have breaking news that's coming in, but I will say this, that you've got Zamir Abbas there reporting from Iran saying essentially that every country has a puppet government, but for Iran, that the Iranian regime is supreme, and that's why they're facing these attacks. That's the message that's coming in from Zamir Abbas, who's reporting from Iran. But I'll get you more breaking news that's coming in light of what's playing out right now, and the fact that you have this war playing out in the Middle East. Exiled Iranian leader Pahlavi has spoken out, issuing a statement saying assistance promised by Trump has arrived. He's called this a humanitarian intervention. Final victory will be ours. Remember that Pahlavi has been leading protests. There have been anti-regime protests triggered by the opposition in Iran, who's now watching what's happening very closely, referring to the strikes as humanitarian intervention.
همیهنان عزیزم، لحظاتی سرنوشت ساز پیش روی ماست. کمکی که رئیس جمهور ایالات متحده به مردم شجاع ایران وعده داده بود، اکنون رسیده است. این یک مداخله بشردوستانه است و هدف آن جمهوری اسلامی دستگاه سرکوب و ماشین کشتار آن است، نه کشور و ملت بزرگ ایران. اما با وجود رسیدن این کمک، پیروزی نهایی همچنان به دست ما رقم خواهد خورد. این ما ملت ایران هستیم که در این آخرین نبرد کار را تمام خواهیم کرد. زمان بازگشت به خیابانها نزدیک است. اکنون که جمهوری اسلامی در حال فروپاشی است، پیام من به نیروهای نظامی، انتظامی و امنیتی کشور روشن است.
The reason that statement is important is because you've had the likes of Donald Trump very publicly, openly taking on the Iranian regime, calling for a regime change. So amid that, the Iranian opposition also kind of pushing forward, saying that this is humanitarian intervention. I'll bring in my colleague Sandeep and also on this broadcast. Sandeep, you've been joining us through the course of this coverage from this morning to now 4:15 p.m. We've seen things escalate, and how. This isn't just limited to Iran, Israel, and America. We've seen strikes on so many other countries on US basis, of course, but it is spreading now. The theater of war, as we've called it, has spread across these Gulf countries. Many would say that this was coming, that any form of this kind of conflict would have ultimately spread in the manner that it has.
Absolutely, Akshita. And this is a kind of, there's a predictability to this conflict. And while these attacks might seem unprecedented, the sheer scale of these attacks, first by Israel and American warplanes on Iran, and then later by Iran's ballistic missile response across the region, there's a sense of predictability to all of this. This is exactly what we were told would happen, that the US would strike at retaliatory operations, striking US bases across the GCC countries, and that's exactly what seems to have happened here. Now, the thing to note here is whether these strikes will continue. Will the US step up its air campaign? Will the Israeli Air Force? Because it's very clear that the Iranian regime, it is at its weakest in 46 years. It's a question of changing the regime, and that's the signaling all of today. The last couple of hours have been all about regime change. You've seen the airstrikes on Iranian targets. They've been hammering presidential palaces, residences, known locations of all their senior IRGC commanders. They're attempting a regime change. But this is exactly what the Iranians have prepared for over the last couple of months. There have been reports of Ayatollah Khamenei asking everyone right down to the provincial levels to identify 4 levels of leadership that will take over in case they are killed or they're incapacitated. They've completely prepared for this kind of a decapitation operation. Now, the big question is that you're seeing an air campaign, you're seeing a sea-launched campaign. A lot of those aircraft and missiles have been launched from the sea. But the one missing thing between 2026 and 2003, the Gulf War, where Saddam Hussein was unseated, is the land campaign. There are no troops on ground. There are no boots on the ground to physically invade Iran and overthrow the regime. Now, the US needed 150,000 soldiers in 2003 to unseat Saddam Hussein. There are no ground elements today. They are hoping that these wave of airstrikes will cause the people of Iran to then rise in revolt and overthrow the regime. Exactly what happened in 1979, in January 1979, when the Shah of Iran, that is Reza Pahlavi's father, he fled after ruling Iran for nearly 4 decades. And that is because the people rose up in revolt. And with that statement today and those missiles and those airstrikes, President Trump is betting on the fact that he can do a 1979 in Iran in 2026 as well, Akshita.
Interesting perspective that, Sandeep, especially because we've had very open public statements from the likes of Netanyahu, from the likes of Trump, that their fight is not against the people of Iran. It's against the current regime. And I'll just play out for our viewers exactly what the Israeli Prime Minister said in his statement a couple of hours ago on Operation Roar of the Lion, as Israel has called it.
אבל אם מישהו היה צריך הוכחה נוספת לגבי טיבו הרצחני של משטר האייתולות, הוא קיבל אותה בחודש שעבר. כי כולנו ראינו איך משטר האימים הזה בטהרן ביצע טבח המוני חסר תקדים באזרחי איראן עצמה. הוא רצח בדם קר אלפי ילדים, מבוגרים, זקנים. רבבות נאסרו, עונו, הושפלו. ולמה? רק בגלל שהם ביקשו לעצמם חיים של חירות וכבוד. במלחמת התקומה ובמבצע עם כלבי, חיילינו הגיבורים היכו שוק על ירך את משטר האייתולות ושלוחיו. אבל חיית הטרף הפצועה לא חדלה מניסיונותיה להשתקם למען אותה מטרה, כדי להשמיד אותנו. בחודשים האחרונים הרודנים באיראן זוממים לבנות מחדש את יכולות הגרעין והטילים שלהם.
An update also from the domestic front that you've got a lot of comments from politicians, including Rahul Gandhi, urging the government of India to take immediate and proactive measures to safeguard our people, looking at the situation in the Middle East. And I will highlight right now that there has been communication that's come in from the government of helpline numbers as well as repeated advisories on how Indians can be safe in light of the situation. Those numbers, email address, all of that is also constantly flashing on our screen. So if anyone's got loved ones in Iran or around, you're wondering if they're doing okay, or if you wanted to know the next course of action, those numbers you can reach out to for any help. But bringing it back to really what we're seeing right now, there are images on your screens. Latest video. This is coming in from Kuwait, where there has been an explosion. That confirmation did come in that there was an explosion, presumably at the US base. And this is footage that we've just received, where you can see the impact of the strike, just plumes of smoke. But that tells you the nature of missile strikes being launched by Iran. And Sandeep, I'll bring you in on this. On the Gulf countries, sure, you know, US, Israel would have been fully prepared for the counterattack that would have come their way. What about these other Gulf countries? What's the kind of setup that they have? Do they have an Iron Dome-like establishment, a defense system that can thwart missile strikes?
Well, you know, not all of the countries have the kind of missile defenses as you pointed out. Israel has Iron Dome. It has the American anti-missile systems, which have been flown in off late. It has an entire carrier strike group and its protective shield around off the coast of Israel. But as you correctly mentioned, many of the GCC countries are actually vulnerable. They host US bases, but they don't have the means to protect their territory from Iranian ballistic missiles. And this is exactly what Iran has been counting on. And they have been threatening these GCC countries with retaliation in the hope that they will prevent the US from using their bases to attack Iran. But that doesn't seem to have played out. And Iran is, you know, carrying out exactly what it's threatened, to launch all of these ballistic missiles onto these GCC countries. And as this conflict carries out, plays out over the next couple of days, I think the key thing to watch out is which country will run out of missiles first. That's all this thing is about.
But do you see a retaliation also, Sandeep? You know, you've got statements that have come in from countries saying we reserve the right to response. Does that mean that these countries will retaliate? Because technically it's US bases that are being targeted. Do you see them also entering this conflict now?
It depends on what targets have been hit. If there are civilian targets, say in Saudi Arabia or in Bahrain or in other, GCC countries in the region, if they have been hit, then of course it will be incumbent on these governments to retaliate for Iranian attacks, because then it will make their position, untenable. The fact that they will have to answer to their civilians. There could be uprisings in those countries as well. So these are, there are plenty of imponderables in all of this. The Middle East is at a very, very delicate juncture right now, because there are alliances that countries have struck. Let's not forget that in September, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan drew up a mutual security pact where an attack on one would be seen as an attack on the other. So if Saudi Arabia is under attack from Iran, does that mean that Pakistan will come to Saudi Arabia's assistance as well? So there are many imponderables in all of this. And it just needs to be seen how long this conflict will play out. If it is another couple of days, then we are in extremely dangerous territory. Whereas if both sides attack, they'll carry out airstrikes, launch missiles, and then they say mission accomplished, and both announce victory, then there is a possibility of conflict termination. But if this continues for the next 1 or 2 days, then you're on extremely tenuous ground. You have no idea which way this is going to play out, Akshita.
I'll just get in also a news break that's coming in. There's been a lot of concern about Indians currently who are in Iran. And we can get to, in fact, some of those statements. There are a couple of Indian students who've released videos asking for immediate evacuation from the government. Rahul Gandhi also, like I mentioned earlier, has urged the government to ensure Indians' safety and that the government must step in to help them out immediately. Let's just play out for you what some of these students have to say. They're obviously worried looking at the situation. They're seeking help from the government. The government has assured that they will help everyone in need and is in constant touch with the Indians in Iran currently.
Hi everyone, I'm an Indian student and currently I'm in Tehran. The situation here feels really worse and uncertain. We really don't know what's going to happen next. We're really grateful that the government of India and the Ministry of External Affairs are in discussion for our safety. But in the times like these, speed matters a lot. I'm not even able to say these things because the airstrikes are happening and it's getting really worse for us. We just request for the quicker and clear evacuation as soon as possible. Please do not wait for the situation to get worse. Just help us. Just get us out of here as soon as possible.
Okay, joining us on this broadcast is also an Israeli news anchor, Lital Shemesh, who's joining us live right now. Lital, we have gotten updates right now that once again sirens have been blaring in several parts of Israel, that there have been warnings issued to people to immediately head to their nearest shelter. Can you just confirm that for us, along with the latest updates coming in from Tel Aviv?
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. So since 8 in the morning here in Tel Aviv, all of us in Israel has been asked to stay close to safe areas, close to bomb shelters. The sirens are going off since, as I said, since 8 in the morning. Different areas around Israel, from the north to the south. Just a half an hour ago, a recent alarm in the center of Tel Aviv. I can also tell you that there has been a few hits in the north of Israel. We're starting to get the pictures from the north of Israel, where a few houses, civilian houses, has been hit. But most of the rockets that were being launched from Iran towards Israel were being intercepted. So as you must know, we have a wide range of forces around the Middle East and around Israel, both Americans and Israeli, intercepting from the air the rockets that are coming from Iran. And also us as Israelis, we're getting notifications. We have a special Home Front Command app that we're getting a pre-notice when the rocket is actually being launched from Iran towards Israel. So you have enough time to get ready and to get inside a bomb shelter. So that's the situation. We know from the previous operation, the previous round of escalation from Iran, that this can last for a few days. It's usually not something that is ending in a few hours or in 24 hours. The last operation, Midnight Hammer, lasts for 12 days. So we know that this is going to take some time.
Sure. Lital, I'd also like to know what Israel's reaction has been to Iran's statement, where they've demanded UN intervention, suggesting essentially that this was a premeditated yet unprovoked attack by US and Israel on Iran.
So we've heard this morning both the announcement of President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. President Trump was very clear in saying we cannot live in a world where this Iranian regime, who is the #1 terror fund country in the world, stay in power. And he was very clear in saying we are now, the main purpose of this operation is to take down the Ayatollah regime, the Iranian regime, and he also gave them an opportunity to take down their weapons. He mentioned in the recent few days over 30,000 people in Iran were being murdered by this Iranian regime. So you have to understand, Iran is not just Israel problem. Iran is not just U.S. problem. Iran is the biggest world terror funding country. It was funding Hamas in the Gaza Strip, the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah up north, and so on. So after 3 rounds of negotiations with the Americans and the Iranians, Trump said enough is enough. If you're not willing to give up the uranium enrichment, if you're not willing to give up your ballistic missiles, we have no other option but to strike Iran. And from the news that we're getting here in Israel, it seems as if they try to take down the heads of Iran, the heads of the Ayatollah regime. We still haven't confirmed who is officially dead, who is officially has been taken down, but we know that is at the moment the main aim of the Americans and the Israelis, and we're trying to get more information on what is happening on the ground.
So Iran, in their statement, has said that the targets, which were commanders of the Iranian army, are all perfectly safe. They're doing okay. But also, I would like to know your reaction. You did highlight how there are terror proxies being pushed by Iran, and that's why the action that's been taken. But what we've also seen in the last few hours is strikes not just by Iran, but also from Hezbollah, from Houthis, aimed, directed at Israel. It's such a circumstance, and if this continues, the question will be about whether Israel also could see casualties.
Unfortunately, we've seen that in the recent round of escalation with Iran, and you were very accurate in saying we're getting rockets not just from Iran. We're getting rockets from Hezbollah. In the recent round of escalation, we got rockets from the Houthis. In Yemen, we got rockets from the Gaza Strip. And, you know, we have a joke here in Israel that we are the only country in the world that when you have a siren, you start asking yourself, where is the rocket coming from? Because you're starting to calculate the time that you have to go to the shelter. Because if it's a rocket from Gaza, you have only 40 seconds. And if it's a rocket from Iran, you have a few minutes to get ready. We are the only country that's actually being attacked from so many different countries at the same time, which is just absurd. And you were also right to say that the Iranian regime is funding world terror.
Okay, apologies. I think we have lost the connection with Little, but I will take that opportunity to also bring in David Matlin, Israel-American journalist, who's joining us on this broadcast. Thank you for your time, David. I just want to understand from you what you make of the current situation that's playing out right now in the Middle East and the manner in which this has so quickly escalated. The question everyone's asking is that if this has happened in a matter of hours, what's the next 24 to 48 hours going to look like? You know, is mediation even possible in these kind of circumstances?
Mediation has been given its run for many decades in this conflict. The Iranians have had really all the time to mediate anything. It's hard to conceive of a diplomatic resolution to the current situation. And that's by the rules of the game that the Iranians themselves have defined here, that it really is defiance to this world order, to the United States, who has been always referred to as the Great Satan. And they've dragged us into this conflict as well here in Israel, always made it almost the religion of Iran to destroy us and remove us from the region. So that being a part of who they are, this is what's come around after all their efforts. They really were successful for many years in building that ring around us here and almost on the threshold of nuclear weapons. But it's good to see that issue eliminated. Unfortunately, we're getting alerts here again of incoming missiles in Tel Aviv. I'm here hunkered down. Maybe I'll rejoin your broadcast. We have to get to shelter here in Tel Aviv again. Thank you.
All right. I understand, David. Thank you very much for joining us. In this kind of an escalating situation, there will be many calls for, in fact, some of our guests, our panelists who are joining us from the heart of these conflict zones to immediately duck and cover, get into bunkers. So we're going to appreciate that in this kind of a situation, that takes priority over any live updates that come in. So David, we're letting him go so he can go ahead and go into a bunker as directed by the authorities there in Israel. But as we get to all of the updates that are coming in, I can confirm for you that Iran has maintained that there have been all their commanders are doing just fine. All the commanders who they say were targeted in these strikes are fine. They're all in safe locations. That's the communication that's come in right now from Iran. There's also right now a statement from NATO in which NATO has said we're closely following developments in Iran and the region. Remember, there's been an offer from the European Union saying we will mediate, we will step in. We are speaking to both sides. On your screens right now are images from Doha, where massive fire seems to have broken out post an explosion. Those are the images on your screens from Doha, where we did tell you that there were multiple reports suggesting that big bangs, massive explosions were heard in the heart of the city. Mind you, these are US bases that have been targeted, but inevitable really that in many of these areas there could be civilian casualties as well. And there have been reports trickling in on those kind of casualty counts across these countries as well. On the point of mediation, Sandeep, is that even something that's possible right now with how things have escalated? You know, you've got countries saying that we can go ahead and respond to the manner we deem fit. Then you've got US and Israel continuing to say that if Iran continues, we will hit again. Iran saying there's no question of us just sitting back and watching. Have we gone too deep, too far to even talk about mediation now?
Akshita, it's never too deep or too far. You cannot rule out mediation. In fact, Iran has asked for the UN to intervene in this because they know exactly this is going to spiral out of control. If this continues, you are going to be looking at an escalatory ladder, and then Iran will possibly carry out what it's threatened to do in the past, which is to block the Straits of Hormuz, expand the conflict, ensure that it causes the maximum amount of damage. And if the regime feels that it's going down, it will try to cause huge damage on all of the regional assets of the US and its allies. So it's a very, very unpredictable moment that we're looking at over here. And the strikes are a little surprising. The ones that we've been seeing today is because the US and Iran were engaged in diplomatic dialogue until a few days back, and we were kind of looking at it with a lot of hope that there would be some outcome out of this. But clearly, the US and Israel seem to have seized the opportunity to go ahead with these airstrikes. The four primary asks of Iran in these negotiations are that they completely stop their nuclear program, they hand over the enriched uranium, they basically cap their entire nuclear program, and of course stop their ballistic missiles program, shut down the entire ballistic missile program. The fourth one, of course, is to stop supporting its regional proxies. These are the four main asks in the negotiations. Very tough for the Iranian regime to agree to all of them. I'm sure they've looked at capping the nuclear program. It's been done in the past under the Barack Obama administration. There was a cap on Iran's nuclear program, but that was taken off by President Trump. And right now, today, it appears that he's taken the military course. But it's still not too late for dialogue to resolve this very, very, let's say, a minefield that we are heading into in West Asia.
Okay, I'm just going to get the latest update coming in. The Israeli military has confirmed that there's been a new wave of Iranian missiles launched towards Israel, which is why many of our guests also had to leave us because of the alert they immediately received to go into their bunkers. There's been a new wave of Iranian missiles. The last time around this alert had come in, reports did suggest about 30 to 70 such missiles were fired towards Israel. One of them did manage to hit a house in northern Israel. But besides that, now the information from the Israeli military is that there's a new wave of Iranian missiles launched towards Israel, and expect this to keep happening. This, unfortunately, at least for the next 24 hours, could be the new normal for Israel. Most of, in fact, the Israelis who joined us said we're used to this. We're used to this kind of sirens blaring and immediately hiding. But in this case, the threat is very real because missiles are headed towards Israel right now, and we are seeing constantly the stream of information from Israeli military to the people saying, move to your bunkers, there is more coming, more missiles headed our way. As we get you all of the images coming in, I just want to highlight for you every single location where we've seen reports and images, videos of these strikes in the Gulf countries, in the Middle East. On your screens are Doha. We're also going to put out for you what we've seen from Kuwait, what we've seen in Bahrain, in the UAE, and many other locations. Let's put that out on our screens as well to show you the scale of what we're talking about right now, of what we've seen and how quickly this has spread. Why have we seen strikes in each of these countries? Because these are where crucial strategic command bases, air bases, naval bases of America are. And there's no doubt, Sandeep, that America would have been fully prepared for exactly this, knowing that their air bases, their naval bases would be targeted in the manner that it is right now. But there is the crucial point that Trump also cannot afford casualties. Look, if American blood is spilled, he's going to face massive domestic backlash.
Absolutely, and that's one reason why a lot of these bases which are being struck by Iran, were vacated over the last couple of days. There were at one point earlier this year, something like 10,000 US servicemen in all of these bases. Now, a lot of them have been thinned out. They've been moved to other locations. They've been dispersed to ensure that there's no loss of American life when these expected retaliations from Iran would take place. And that's what Iran is doing. It's trying to raise the costs for Israel and for the United States by striking all across the region, by attacking all these bases in all of these countries in the hope of deterring further attacks. Because clearly, like I said, the regime in Iran is extremely fragile. Right now, it is at its most vulnerable it's ever been in more than 4 decades. If this pace of attacks, these relentless waves of airstrikes continue, and if there is a popular uprising within Iran, then it's going to be very difficult for the regime to survive. However, improbable that scenario might seem, that airstrikes could change a regime in Iran. The regime in Iran is all trying to protect itself. It's all about survival. It's all about protecting itself. That's what it's been doing for 4.5 decades. And that explains this entire architecture that is set into place, whether it is your ballistic missile program, the nuclear weapons program, the network of proxies around West Asia. It was all about protecting the regime. And today the regime is it's vulnerable. It's been hit by airstrikes, missile strikes by both US and Israel. And it's anybody's guess what the regime will do next to ensure that it survives in Iran.
Okay, as we get to all the latest updates that are coming in right now and the footage, I can confirm for you that in Iran, and this is in one particular location of the strikes, Iran says that at least 24 people have been killed. And this, they say, was because of an Israeli strike on a school in Iran's south county of Minab. I'll again highlight that this is what the Iranian regime, the government, has said about a strike in one particular location. Remember, Israel and US have maintained that they very carefully chose their targets, that these weren't civilian establishments, but rather crucial, army command centers, or in some cases, Khamenei's residence as well, which was targeted. Now, what Iran seems to be suggesting is that these were civilian establishments, civilian settlements that were targeted in the strike. And they're saying 24 people have died, presumably children, because it's suggesting that the strike was on a school in Iran's southern county of Minab. That's the information that's coming in right now. This is what the Iranian government has said has actually happened. And the images on your screens, this is where it all started in Tehran with the explosions that took place hours ago. And from there, we've now reached a situation where these pictures have become common across the Middle East, where every single major city has seen explosions, has seen targeted missile strikes taking place. And the information that's coming in right now is that you've got a communication from America, and a US official has actually spoken to the US media highlighting that this is not going to go on for hours, that this is going to go on for days. Is that a similar communication that the Israel government has also indicated towards?
Yes, the message was very clear that this will last for days. And regarding the recent news from Iran, I suggest to take everything that is coming from the Iranian regime with a pinch of salt, because both the Israelis and the Americans has no intention in harming civilians. The matter of fact, America said again and again, Trump said again and again, he will come to the rescue of the people of Iran. There is no interest to harm innocent civilians. The attacks are towards the regime of Iran, the heads of the regime of Iran. And as you've said, this would last for days. It's a matter of when will Iran surrender, when will Iran will be taken down, because just one strike won't be, the crucial effect in order to take down the whole regime. As you said earlier, we're talking about the lowest point that the regime is now for the recent decades. The economic situation is severely bad. The people of Iran, as we said in the past, tens of thousands has been killed by this regime, and they were crying for help for weeks, for months. Here in Israel, we were speaking about it for days. For days, we were asking days and weeks, we were asking ourselves, when will the attack occur? And for some, for some part, we were thinking maybe Trump doesn't want this attack anymore. Maybe he just want to get a deal. But at the end of the day, Trump has proven to the world, and he said it with his own voice, there is no other president in the United States that would have taken this courageous step in taking down the #1 terror funding country in the world. So Israelis at the moment are very patient. We know how to act. We've been near bomb shelters in the recent years of getting rockets from the Gaza Strip, over 15 years of getting rockets from the Gaza Strip.
Okay.
So people know how to stay near bomb shelters, and we just need to wait and see where this whole situation will be developed.
Okay, all right. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us, and stay safe out there. We are hearing news right now of sirens continuing to blare through several parts of Israel, warning citizens, asking them to go into bunkers, looking at the current situation. I will add here, however, that as we get in these voices, these panelists representing different sides, you will hear what they have to say and a certain narrative being pushed forward. But here on India Today, we're getting you both sides so you understand what the situation is currently and the reasoning behind what's led to this kind of a conflict, this kind of a war, whether it's Israel and US highlighting that the Iranian regime needs to go, the terror proxies are being shielded, or Iran maintaining that this is an attempt to meddle in Iran's affairs and an attempt by US to control what's happening in Iran. We're putting out both sides for you. I want to play out for you what exactly US President Donald Trump said. 8-minute statement that he put out on social media where he spoke of the strikes that were conducted by US and Israel. Remember, I'll also highlight here that in a few hours from now, Saturday morning, America time, so for us this evening, there is going to be another fresh statement from Donald Trump, which we'll track very closely. But for the moment, listen in to that 8-minute detailed statement from the US president.
And our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Introducing Motorola's signature.
तुमने नौकरी छोड़ दी, अब आगे क्या प्लान है? फुल टाइम म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन। बेटा, इतने में घर कैसे चलेगा? पापा, मेरे पास 150 क्लाइंट्स ऑलरेडी हैं और नए क्लाइंट्स मिलते रहते हैं। अब नौकरी छोड़कर फुल टाइम म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर ही बनूंगा। आप भी मेरी तरह म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर बन सकते हैं। जानिए कैसे? mfdkareshuru.com पर। तो करें शुरू।
Introducing Motorola Signature. Don't blend in, stand out. Introducing Motorola Signature. Don't blend in, stand out.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. BJP hits back at Arvind Kejriwal, says his sins are not yet washed away. Rajasthan government renames 3 cities. Mount Abu is now Aburaj. Pakistan claims strikes on 22 Afghan sites, says 274 militants killed.
Get ready for the benchmark of recognition in the year of the Great Reset. It is time for the 30th edition of the Business Today Best Bank Awards, honoring India's finest banks and NBFCs, chosen by a distinguished jury. In the presence of our chief guest, guest of honor, and other visionary leaders. Bigger, bolder, boundless. At the BT Banking and Economy Summit, Saturday, February 28th, 2026.
Introducing Motorola's signature.
तुमने नौकरी छोड़ दी, अब आगे क्या प्लान है? फुल टाइम म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन। बेटा, इतने में घर कैसे चलेगा? पापा, मेरे पास 150 क्लाइंट्स ऑलरेडी हैं और नए क्लाइंट्स मिलते रहते हैं। अब नौकरी छोड़कर फुल टाइम म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर ही बनूंगा। आप भी मेरी तरह म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर बन सकते हैं। जानिए कैसे? mfdkareshuru.com पर। तो करें शुरू।
Introducing Motorola Signature. Don't blend in, stand out. Introducing Motorola Signature. Don't blend in, stand out.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. BJP hits back at Arvind Kejriwal, says his sins are not yet washed away. Rajasthan government renames 3 cities. Mount Abu is now Aburaj. Pakistan claims strikes on 22 Afghan sites, says 274 militants killed.
Good evening. You're joining us here on India Today for our rolling non-stop coverage of the war that's broken out in West Asia. It's no longer an escalation. This is full-blown war that's playing out as a result of US and Israel hammering parts of Iran this morning. And since then, Iran has gone all out, targeting US bases across the Gulf, firing non-stop missiles at Israel as well. Here on India Today, we're getting you every single one of those updates coming in. Those are the images on your screens of what's played out through the day now. This is no longer just about Iran, Israel, and America. We've been seeing explosions ripping through some of the biggest cities of the Middle East, with Iran saying very clearly they will not back off, targeting US bases. Any base that's within their range. And that's why we're seeing multiple explosions taking place across the Middle East as well. What will lead to, in fact, this theater of war ending, or is it only going to expand further? Is there any possibility of mediation, or will this only end when there is a regime change in Iran, as US and Israel want? Let's get you more breaking news that's coming in. Hezbollah now has issued a statement saying they too will attack US bases. Not really surprising, considering Hezbollah, right after the attack on Iran, started firing missiles at Israel. Even as that's happened, we can also confirm for you that more explosions have been heard in Abu Dhabi. Very close to Abu Dhabi airport as well, there have been reports of explosions. One casualty has already been reported as a result of the missile strikes in Abu Dhabi. In Doha of Qatar, sirens have been blaring for the last many hours. People have been told to go into shelters, to remain safe, to not be near the windows of their homes. And that's because there have been explosions constantly being heard in Doha as well. Hamas has issued a statement condemning US and Israel aggression in Iran. And the reason we highlight what Hamas, Houthis or Hezbollah is saying is because it gives you a sense of all the players involved and how this continues to escalate further and further, with more missile strikes, with more attacks taking place across the Gulf countries. And as we get you the latest updates of what's playing out and the reactions coming in, remember there have been multiple condemnations also of the escalation that's happened. Donald Trump, US president, is expected to speak later today in another statement following his 8-minute detailed address that he had put out on social media. But let's also play out for you, why is Iran at this point going ahead in attacking left, right, center, every US base? It's because they want that this time around, they will not sit back while they're attacked. Just days ago, India Today scooped that mega global exclusive with Abbas Araghchi, who is in fact the Iranian foreign minister. He made it very clear that while Iran is for peace, if there was any provocation by US or Israel, Iran would hit back hard. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Let's get and let's take a look at an excerpt of that exclusive conversation with Geeta Mohan.
What do you think is the motivation that brings Trump to a position where he's so anti-Iran? Where does this come from? Does it stem from Israel, the ally?
Well, it's a long story, I have to say. Everything began from the Islamic Revolution in Iran. I think Americans fail to understand why it happened. So they started hostility against that. In the past 47 years, we have been the subject or the victim of their hostility against us. And they have tried everything. They tried coups. Several times they tried, they several times they tried, several times they tried, helped Saddam Hussein to impose an 8-year war. An 8-year war against us. 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 Last year, another war, all kinds of sanctions, maximum pressure policy. And we have no, real information about Iran and Iranian people. And they are fed with, misinformation campaign, mostly by, Israeli lobbies. So I believe that the only solution to talk is to talk with the Iranian people with the language of respect. And if they try that language, they will see the result, that we would also talk with them with the same language. But if they want to use pressure, language of force, then the result is as we see. So let's hope that we can change the approaches and come to a better way of dealing with each other.
And that's what's led to this all-out counterattack by Iran as a response to the US's operation, which is called Operation Epic Fury, and Israel's operation, which is called Operation Roar of the Lion. Let's be very clear that these are ongoing operations right now. Both US and Israel have made it very clear that any counterattack by Iran would lead to further fresh strikes by them. And considering Iran has already responded and has already resorted to these kind of counterattacks, you're going to see this rage on for the next many days, not hours, but days. EU has stepped in saying we're willing to mediate, but is there really a possibility of mediation when there are so many countries, so many sides involved? On your screens right now are images from Iran of a school. Iran says the strikes by US and Israel led to a school being targeted in which 36 students have died. Now, remember, Israel and US in their statements repeatedly said that our war and our operation is not against the people of Iran, but that is against the Iranian regime. And so they said they've only targeted the official bases, commanders of the Iranian army, their establishments. But images on your screens of a school that's faced the brunt and borne the brunt of this particular strike. Iran says 36 students have died as a result of the strike. I will highlight, however, that the information that's trickling in from both narrative building and ensuring that you send out a message about brutalities by the other country. So while this is what Iran maintains, we will attempt to also independently verify whether a school truly was hit and whether 36 students have died. As far as Israel is concerned, they've maintained that they only hit military establishments. They've targeted commanders, including the supreme leader of Iran, Khamenei's residence. Listen in to what the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in his video statement earlier.
אבל אם מישהו היה צריך הוכחה נוספת לגבי טיבו הרצחני של משטר האייתולות, הוא קיבל אותה בחודש העבר. כי כולנו ראינו איך משטר האימים הזה בטהרן ביצע טבח המוני חסר תקדים באזרחי איראן עצמה. הוא רצח בדם קר אלפי ילדים, מבוגרים, זקנים. רבבות נאסרו, עונו, הושפלו. ולמה? רק בגלל שהם ביקשו לעצמם חיים של חירות וכבוד. במלחמת התקומה ובמבצע עם כלבי, חיילינו הגיבורים היכו שוק על ירך.
Reported in Qatar, in UAE, and in Bahrain. Where exactly in these locations, we're going to narrow that down for you further. But what this highlights essentially is that this is nowhere near over, that this is going to continue to play out for the next many days even. Top US officials speaking to the US media have said exactly this, that this is not a question of hours. The strikes are going to continue for days. And so explosions being reported in parts of Qatar. We've got you images from Doha as well that show thick plumes of smoke emerging from some of those US bases. In the UAE, Abu Dhabi, as well as Dubai, there have been explosions that have been reported. In Abu Dhabi, very close to the airport, there have been explosions as well. And then from Bahrain, where you have the US naval base, there have been explosions there too. Unfortunately, in many of these incidents of missile strikes in these countries, there have also been casualties. We're going to continue updating all those numbers for you and the latest information trickling in for everyone who is currently watching this broadcast. Remember that the situation right now is still moving at this point. It's developing as we speak. So every update that comes in of these explosions is based on witness accounts as well of what people on the ground are telling us about warnings being issued by you need to disconnect from this conversation. Can you tell us right now, Ben, what's the current situation? Because we did get an update about 20 minutes ago that sirens once again went off, that there was a fresh wave of missile strikes by Iran towards Israel.
Well, of course, Israelis have been preparing for this and aware that this could really happen any day. So I don't think that there's much kind of shock or surprise in Israel. And of course, people are sadly pretty used to having to live under the fear of rocket attacks. And there were the rocket attacks from Iran earlier on during the Israel-Hamas war. So Israel is ready for this. They have bunkers and they have places that are safe to stay. But the fear that Israelis will be feeling right now demonstrates why it's so important that the Iranian regime needs to go. The Iranian regime is the biggest threat to regional instability that there is. It's attacking other countries than Israel as well, such as in the UAE, as you've said. And really, the people of Iran need to take this opportunity, which may not come up again, to overthrow the horrific dictatorship that has been plaguing Iran and threatening instability and harming its own people.
It's clear that's the end goal essentially for US and Israel. But will that actually happen, Ben? Looking at what's happened in the last few hours, the fact that you've seen the Iranian regime go all out to target every single US base, literally, across the Gulf, and the fact that they've kind of dug in their heels and said that if you attack us, we'll hit you back harder. Do you think Israel and US kind of saw this coming, knew there would be this kind of an aggressive hit back from Iran?
I think, of course, they saw this coming, and that's one of the reasons these strikes actually took some time to come in. There's been this kind of period of limbo up until now where the world really felt like these strikes were coming soon, and that's because the US especially has been needing to deploy its military resources and its naval resources and its air defenses to minimize the impact of Iranian retaliation that was always going to come. And I think hopefully the missile strikes from Iran will be of a lesser extent to what we saw previously, because so much of their own missile supply has been depleted by those attacks that it made on Israel and other parts of the region. It doesn't have the capabilities to replenish those missiles very quickly. So hopefully that the retaliation will be short-lived. But of course, there's been preparation in place as far as can be seen to mitigate that impact.
The suggestion, at least at this point, is that this isn't going to go on for hours. It's a question of how many days, really, looking at how things are playing out right now in the Gulf. But there's also that question, Ben, of what really Iran's strategy is here, considering, they've gone all out and targeting these US bases, and you've got statements from multiple countries saying they reserve the right to respond to the manner they deem fit to what Iran has done. Iran essentially right now is facing the threat of complete alienation in the Gulf itself. So what really do you think is their strategy going into this? That sure, they've said, we will hit back, but surely they would have thought of the fact that they are completely alienated now.
Well, they're obviously trying to do whatever they can to deter further attacks. And they can't hit the US yet, although, of course, they've been working on that capability. So the best thing that they can try and do is to attack US allies, Israel foremost, but other allies in the region, as we've seen as well, in order to try and deter further strikes from the US, and also maybe to try and increase pressure from American allies to not strike. But I think President Trump's decision is clear that now is a moment in time that has to be taken advantage of, with the momentum of the protests and uprisings that we saw a few months ago that was very brutally repressed, of course, that this can't just be a trickle. We have to use this moment in time to create, I think, enough confidence amongst the Iranian people that the support is there and will continue to be there to degrade government capabilities, nuclear capabilities, military capabilities, such that regime change is possible. So Iran is doing whatever it can to try and deter further action, but hopefully they won't manage to do so. And especially once they deplete their missile resources even further, it'll actually look like a fairly futile effort.
And for joining us with your analysis of what's really playing out right now, and stay safe out there. We know that there are sirens constantly blaring, asking everyone to go into bunkers, considering the barrage of missiles that Iran is firing towards Israel. But let's get to a news break that's coming in now. What I was on its soil. Qatar has issued a statement saying this is unacceptable escalation by Iran, and that they reserve the right to respond to Iran in the manner that they deem fit. Qatar has also issued in their statement saying very clearly that there must be an immediate ceasefire. But how will that actually happen is the big question mark. Let's get you details of that statement right now that's coming from Qatar. And this is a statement that you will see most of the Gulf countries have put out, saying they